Chapter 593. Swish. Swish. Boom. Boom thus. Long Ting opened her eyes wide in horror. The black ball didn't seem to contain much energy and wasn't very big. When Chen Hao sent her into the aircraft, she had seen it. But Guan Yu blocked it easily, so Long Ting didn't take it seriously. But now, the intelligent brain only launched a round of attacks, and one of the 4 people's physical body was destroyed. The other 3 people, in extreme horror, scattered and fled in 3 directions. The guy who had turned into a primordial spirit was even faster. It was too sudden, so sudden that the 4 of them could not react at all. However, they knew that this terrifying attack was not something that they could withstand. Moreover, sensing the speed of the disc-shaped supreme spiritual treasure, they were even more scared out of their wits. They almost peed in their pants. At this moment, they didn't dare to hesitate. They could only run, and they had to run in different directions. It depended on who was lucky enough to escape this disaster. Long Ting, please kill the primordial spirit immediately. Please kill the primordial spirit immediately. But. Swish. Long Ting only regained her senses after receiving the AI's reminder. She abruptly rushed out of the cabin door that had long been opened. Borrowing the inertia of the aircraft, Long Ting abruptly raised her strength and pressure to the peak and stabbed out with her sword. A miserable, unwilling and terrified shrill cry erupted from the mouth of the soul core. After that, it was minced into nothingness by Long Ting's dense strands of sword light. In less than 10 seconds, Long Ting quickly flew into the aircraft and accelerated to catch up with one of the other 3 people. That Black Egg's attack is actually so powerful? Of course. Long Ting, please prepare to kill the 2nd primordial spirit, the intelligent brain said in a mechanical voice. It had no human emotions, so it didn't feel anything about Long Ting's surprise. You can destroy the physical body of an ace at the Earth's celestial stage so easily. Why didn't you destroy all of them just now? After calculation, if you destroy the physical bodies of 4 people at the same time, you can't kill all 4 of them at once. The other 3 primordial spirits will escape. The speed of the primordial spirits is 8 times that of the cultivator. Considering that you don't know how long it will take you to kill one primordial spirit, if you kill all of them, the time it will take you to destroy their physical bodies one by one is about 40 times. Swish. 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 Please execute him immediately. As the artificial intelligence spoke, it caught up to another cultivator. Without any suspense, it destroyed the cultivator's body and prompted Long Ting to attack. It took less than 3 minutes to kill all 4 cultivators. DDD. He had locked onto one of the 10 escaping essence soul auras. Long Ting, let's kill this primordial spirit first. 2 minutes later, the artificial intelligence spoke again. What do you mean by 10 escaped primordial soul stage cultivators? Before my master saved you, he destroyed the bodies of 10 Earth celestial stage experts who were following my master. Time was of the essence. Back then, master did not kill his primordial spirit. This is one of the missions that master gave to you and me. It is also the most difficult and last mission. The AI replied mechanically but clearly. The 10 escaped primordial spirits were too far apart, and they had scattered in all directions. Even with the powerful detection ability of the flying device, it was impossible to detect them at this moment. They had to search in all directions and spend a lot of time to complete the task. That was why the artificial intelligence system said it was the most difficult mission. As for picking up Long E and killing the cultivators who were chasing Long E, it was a simple matter. What are the missions? Killing the 4 people just now is the first mission. The second mission is to pick up Long E and kill the 5 people who were following Long E. The third mission is to rush back to pick up my master. On the way, if you encounter the last mission, you can kill the primordial spirit. Don't search for it for now. Oh, is Chen Hao in danger? What other trump cards does he have? Sorry, this is beyond my knowledge and my ability to answer. Little wisdom number 1, you were invented by Chen Hao. What about this flying device? I've never seen or heard of such a powerful aircraft before. Sorry, this is beyond my ability to answer. Long Ting, distance to target, 178,000 kilometers. Scene simulation activated. Please prepare to attack. But what is the theory behind this scene simulation? Is it also science that I don't understand? Long Ting asked again. Please prepare. What's the hurry? We are not there yet. Little Wisdom number 1. Please prepare, we are here. Although Little Wisdom number 1 had no emotions, it had been interrogated by Long Ting for several hours. It had almost fallen into an endless loop several times. The autonomous program had developed an antibody program to avoid Long Ting. It actually took the initiative to interrupt Long Ting and issued an order. Swoosh. The cabin door opened again. Then I will talk to you when I come back. Long Ting, who was no longer in danger, regained the potential to get to the bottom of the matter. The miniature flying device, which was named Huaxiao number 1 by Chen Hao, was still extremely fast under the control of the intelligent brain. However, it could not reach the speed when Chen Hao was controlling it. Of course, the most important reason was that Little Wisdom number 1 could not activate it beyond its limit mode. This was because it could not repair the damage of the flying device. Even so, it only took about half an hour to meet up with Long Yi, who was rushing towards them. After seeing the flying device and his sister, who had sent out a communication talisman in advance, Long Yi was naturally shocked. When he entered the flying device, he heard the voice of Little Wisdom number 1 and saw that Little Wisdom number 1 had destroyed the body of one of the 5 elites at the peak of the later stage of the Earth celestial stage who were chasing after him. He just watched and did not even have a chance to make a move. In just a few minutes, the 5 elites at the Earth celestial stage were all killed by Little Wisdom number 1 and Long Ting. Now Little Wisdom number 1 was quiet, and the reason was very simple. Long Yi pestered Long Ting endlessly with questions. For Long Yi, this was too shocking, too incredible, too unimaginable, too magical, too fantastical. After all, even though Long Ting was shocked, she still had the genetic testing device as a foundation. At least she was mentally prepared and had overthought it. But what about Long Yi? This was beyond his knowledge, or rather, it was unheard of in the entire vast universe galaxy. How could he not be shocked? Fortunately, when he mentioned Chen Hao, Long Yi remembered that Chen Hao had said that Long Ting was in danger, and only then did he remember to care about his sister's situation. This question caused Long Yi's anger to soar to the heavens. At the same time, he began to worry about Chen Hao's safety. I didn't expect Guan Yu to hide so deeply. This matter is not so simple. Brother, now you don't blame me for humiliating him? I knew that he must have some unspeakable secrets, but I didn't expect him to get the other half. And he refined the top saint-level elixir among them. Guan Yu, that shameless person, has said everything he needs to say. The backer behind this matter is his master, and that elixir was refined by his master. He must have gotten his master's permission to do this, or even instructed by his master. He's a first-class elite in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, but he's so sanctimonious and despicable. Sigh. Sister, even our family can't solve this matter. The elite of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, the controller of the Ying planet, our Long family. If our ancestors were still here, we would naturally seek justice. But now. So what if he's the controller? So what if he's from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm? He dared to treat me like this, and one day I'll seek justice with my own hands. I want to improve as fast as I can. I want to set foot on the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. At this moment, when Long Ting told Long Yi about this matter, it evoked the monstrous hatred she had when Guan Yu had forced her into a desperate situation and she couldn't die even if she wanted to. Her whole aura exuded a kind of determination and madness that Long Yi had never seen before. Was this still his sister who, because of a great opportunity and a special cultivation method, only knew how to play and never took cultivation seriously, let alone take it seriously for a day? Long Yi was surprised by his sister's change, but his heart ached faintly. He knew that although his sister had been saved by Chen Hao safely this time, the stimulation and psychological trauma to his sister were enormous. It should be known that Long Ting had never encountered any setbacks since she was a child, and the first setback was so serious. One could only imagine. Fortunately and gratifying, his sister didn't fall, but had really grown up. He believed that from now on, the speed of his sister's improvement would inevitably be earth-shaking. And this change was determined by his sister's attitude. No matter how special the cultivation method, no matter how casual the cultivation method, if the person didn't have the courage to move forward, he or she would never be able to exert his or her true potential. No matter who it was the same. Brother, I will too. This matter, forget it, let's talk about it when we see Brother Chen. I really don't know why Brother Chen wants to stay there. Guanu's strength is already very strong, and his heart has revealed his true strength, which is no less than your strongest state. I'm afraid. I hope nothing will happen to him. Sister, when you were on the Alliance's aircraft, why did you use that kind of power? That was your life-saving means. You knew that we came out to experience this time, and I also told you that there were so many masters involved. Why didn't you listen? If it weren't for Brother Chen this time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Cough cough, brother, I used it. Who knew that I would encounter such a thing? Don't ask. How could Long Ting have the nerve to say that it was to seal Chen Hao, who was drugged by her? This was a very personal matter. It was also a secret between her and Chen Hao. Even if they were family, she couldn't say it, she was too embarrassed to say it. Well, be careful in the future. Little Intelligence 1, how long will it take for us to arrive? Can you go faster? I'm worried about your master's safety. Master's safety is more important than anything. I'm more worried than you. The speed is already the fastest, Smart One replied mechanically. But the words used were full of humanity. It was even rarer to use the word faster. This was something that Chen Hao didn't set when he condensed it. If Chen Hao was here at this moment, he would probably be a little surprised by this change. Chapter 594. Beep beep beep. Locked onto Master and Guanu's aura. Simulation activated. After about 20 minutes, the artificial intelligence system's voice sounded. Through Long Ting and Long Yi's conversation, Xiaoji 1 automatically memorized Guanu's name. Swoosh. The entire space of the aircraft suddenly changed, and Chen Hao and Guanu, who were fighting, appeared in front of Long Ting and Long Yi. Close combat? In an instant, Long Ting and Long Yi exclaimed. They knew very well how strong Guanu, who had the same great opportunity as Long Ting and was the other half of Long Ting's relic, was. Especially his physical body, even if it was not as strong as Long Ting's, it was almost the same. Facing such a perverted guy, why would Chen Hao choose close combat? Especially when Guanu's absolute strength was several times that of Chen Hao's. The two of them attacked as fast as lightning, and their bodies moved in the sky and on the ground, changing constantly. Even though the simulated scene could not truly simulate the terrifying auras of the two, Long Ting and Long Yi could see how intense the battle was at this moment. What made the two of them heave a sigh of relief was that although Chen Hao was being suppressed, he was not at an absolute disadvantage. Quick, get closer. Long Yi and Long Ting urged. 5 minutes later, the aircraft stopped when it was 1,000 miles away from Chen Hao and Guanu. Why did you stop? Move forward, we have to help Brother Chen. Sorry, Master said that unless there is a life or death situation, neither I nor you can interfere. You can watch the battle from this distance. Swoosh. The cabin door of the aircraft suddenly opened. Ding ding ding. Rumble rumble rumble. In the blink of an eye, the sound of metal clashing and energy exploding from the secret manual entered their ears. Within 1,000 miles, the energy was tumbling, and it was filled with terrifying pressure and raging energy turbulence. They were 1,000 miles away, and there was such a huge fluctuation. One could imagine how terrifying the power of the two in the battle was. Guanu was barehanded, and every single inch of his skin that was exposed to the outside was like gold and emitted a golden light that shot into the sky. His fists and palms blasted out like numerous golden dragons that whistled out and emitted an extremely shocking aura, and it was simply capable of shattering a star with a single punch and slashing apart the sky with a single palm. Ding ding ding. Rumble. Guanu's fist and palm emitted a golden light that covered the sky and the sun. Its power was astonishing, and it actually met Chen Hao's sharp sword light head-on. Just how strong was his physical body? You're back? Long Yi is also here? At this moment, Guan Yu suddenly sensed two auras 1,000 miles away. Good. Very good. It seemed like they couldn't bear to part with this idiot who saved the damsel in distress. And my people have all failed. Trash, all of you are trash. Guan Yu was both excited and angry. He was excited that Long Yi had returned and angry that the 20 Earth Immortals he brought were useless. As long as I force this kid into a desperate situation, Long Ting and Long Yi will definitely lend a hand. At that time, it will be the time for me to erupt with my strongest strength. Now, he could only activate it a little. Boom. In an instant, Guan Yu's entire body actually expanded like a mountain. 20 feet, 15 feet, 30 feet. He pierced through the sky and emitted a myriad of golden lights. A golden waterfall fell from the sky as he slammed his palm down. Bang! The extremely hard and hot lava ground was directly hit by Guan Yu's palm. The ground trembled and a murderous aura soared to the sky. However, Chen Hao managed to dodge this terrifying attack in the split second when the electric sparks flew. At the same time, he waved his sword and slashed. Swoosh, swoosh, buzz. Rays of sword light merged into one, as if 10,000 swords were humming at the same time, resounding through the heaven and earth with unparalleled sharpness. The sharp and pure sword essence showed an extremely terrible side, cutting through everything in the heaven and earth. The sky was trembling with a rumbling sound. The golden sword light shot out in all directions. One was dominating the heaven and earth, while the other was invincible. Countless deep sword marks and fist and palm pits were rapidly increasing on the lava ground. Guan Yu, who was full of confidence, was finally really shocked at this moment. At this moment, although he didn't activate the power that didn't belong to him to the extreme, he had already reached the point where he had to endure the backlash. How could he still not be able to suppress Chen Hao? Originally, he didn't want to use a more powerful power because he didn't want to suffer a serious backlash. Of course, he was also confident that he could defeat Chen Hao with his previous power. He just needed a little more time. But now, after increasing his power, he had begun to suffer from the backlash. He was sure that with his current power, even a super genius at the peak of the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage would be trampled under his feet, let alone a human immortal. But Chen Hao still blocked his attack, which was really beyond his expectation. I'd like to see how many times you can resist. Boom, boom. Guan Yu's mountain-like body finally went crazy after he failed to hit Su Quebec. In an instant, the scene became extremely shocking. Guan Yu's huge body was like a fast-moving mountain. His punches and palms were earth-shattering, extremely swift and violent. Compared to the small Chen Hao, it seemed that he could be drowned in Guan Yu's attacks at any time. Chen Hao did feel the pressure doubled, and his expression became extremely dignified. But, more than that, he was excited and had a crazily soaring fighting intent. Whether it was Guan Yu, who was in the battle, or Long Ting and Long Yi, who were watching the battle thousands of miles away and worried about Chen Hao, they didn't expect that Chen Hao would have such a mentality. This was absolutely a natural masochist mentality. No pain, no comfort. In the face of Guan Yu's horrible pressure and power, at this moment, Chen Hao felt like he was in a gravitational field that was 10,000 times or 100,000 times stronger. His muscles, bones, meridians, bone marrow, and even every cell in his body were oppressed, and his pores were forced to bleed, but Chen Hao himself felt incomparably cool, so cool that hundreds of millions of pores in his body opened up, and the cool went deep into his soul. This was the battle he needed. This was the battle that could make him excited. This was the battle that could stimulate all his potential power and make his little universe explode. Boom. The long-lost fighting intent from Chen Hao's soul and bone marrow finally burst out again under the huge pressure brought by Guan Yu. Roar! A howl that was loud, resounding, and filled with boundless battle intent and arrogance that looked down upon the world suddenly surged out from Chen Hao's roar. At this moment, his essence, energy, and spirit were like a sharp sword that pierced through the sky. And he was like a beast that had been sleeping for hundreds of years suddenly awakened, or a volcano that had been suppressed for thousands of years suddenly erupted. Compared to Guan his power was many times stronger, but under his horrible aura, it emitted a kind of power that made people's hearts palpitate. Not to mention Guan in front of him, even Long Ting and Long Yi, who were thousands of miles away, gasped in fear. What was he going to do? What is he going to do? Guan felt that his dignity was being ruthlessly challenged by Chen Hao again and again. This time, there was no exception, because the sword in Chen Hao's hand turned into a streamer and went into his glabella. If you only have this little power, then I will use my fist to beat you until you shit your pants. Explode. Boom. Boom boom boom. At this moment, Chen Hao was like Guan just now. His body became bigger and stronger, and in an instant he had grown to the same level as Guan. Without giving Guan any time to be shocked, he punched out. Swoosh. Boom. The airflow was tumbling, the space was torn apart, and the fist that was faintly blooming with blood-red light was fierce and powerful. You're courting death. You're courting death. Guan attacked violently. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. In the blink of an eye, the fists of the two figures collided with each other, and each of them intertwined with each other. Brother Chen, are you crazy? Using your weakness to attack his strength. The power gap is so big, how can he fight with his opponent? Long Yi murmured, full of confusion. Long Ting was also very surprised, especially when she saw that Chen Hao's body, which had become bigger with his true essence, was shrinking under Guan's violent attacks. It seemed that he was going to be beaten back to his original size. Her heart was in her mouth, but after Chen Hao expanded once and was beaten back to his original size, he expanded again and was beaten back again. After several times, it turned into pure shock, no longer nervous or worried. What was going on? Long Ting and Long Yi couldn't understand. Even though Chen Hao had displayed terrifying battle skills and unbreakable willpower, he was still being tortured. It was like a huge piece of or being hammered down to a small point. Every time, Chen Hao's exposed skin would turn red, as if it was dripping blood, but this guy was still getting bigger and bigger each time. Brother, is he refining his body? Long Ting thought of a metaphor and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. She looked at Long Yi and asked, Refining? Refining his body? Is that possible? Maybe. It's very possible. If it's an ordinary person, his combat power will be greatly reduced after being beaten like this, but what about him? Long Yi sucked in a breath of cold air as his eyes widened in shock. Every time Chen Hao was beaten back to his original size, not only did his combat power not decrease, it seemed to be increasing. Impossible, impossible. Absolutely impossible. This guy's physical aura is obviously very weak. How can he take my heavy blows again and again and become stronger and stronger? What kind of constitution is this? How come I have never heard of it? Guan had originally thought that Chen Hao had overestimated himself. However, after the first and the second time, he had used his powerful strength to violently flatten Chen Hao into his original form. He had felt that Chen Hao was an idiot who wanted to compete with him in terms of strength and body strength. However, after the third, fourth, fifth, and eighth time in a row, he could no longer feel happy, because he clearly felt that Chen Hao was not injured under such a serious attack. On the contrary, he had vaguely become stronger. What the hell was going on? He was an extremely confident and conceited person. Even if Chen Hao had shown combat skills and strength that were beyond his imagination, his confidence that he could defeat Chen Hao had never been shaken. But now, he doubted whether he could defeat Chen Hao. In other words, he suspected that Chen Hao had been hiding his real strength from the beginning. Chapter 595. As the only heir of the Gua family, the head of the 5 major families on the Yang planet, and the only personal disciple of Supreme Hongmeng, the ruler of the Yang planet, he had never needed to show his real strength to anyone of his age except for when he was willing to play dumb and be trampled on for Long Ting. He had always been the one to humiliate others, but now, no, this can't go on. I have to unleash my real strength and kill him as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Even if Long Ting has to escape, I have to do it. The battle had lasted for an hour, during which he had constantly increased his strength and supernatural powers, but he had failed every time he thought he could take down Chen Hao. Now that he thought about it carefully, as long as he was not an idiot, he should have realized that he had been tricked by Chen Hao, so, at this moment, if he were to slowly increase his strength, how could it be effective? The only thing he could do was to give his opponent an earth-shattering blow, a fatal blow. Out of habit, Guan Yu wanted to make a grand opening speech, but he forced himself to hold back because he no longer had the confidence to see through Chen Hao. Boom! Without any warning, the golden light around Guan Yu's body suddenly flourished. In an instant, his power and pressure soared several times. In an instant, thousands of fists and palms struck out continuously, without any pause. Every palm and every punch contained the power of thousands of caddies and endless mysteries. Boom, boom, boom. With the momentum of a thunderbolt, he pressed down on Chen Hao. He wanted to kill Chen Hao in one breath. He could not give him any time to react or catch his breath. Otherwise, he did not know whether Chen Hao would become stronger or not. Oh no! Long Ting suddenly exclaimed. With a chi sound, she turned into a stream of light and shot out of the aircraft. As someone who similarly possessed a great fortuitous inheritance and was the other half of Guan Yu's inheritance, at this moment, when she saw the golden talisman mark between Guan Yu's brows suddenly explode and erupt with the true strength of the inheritance, she knew better than anyone that Guan Yu was about to utilize his trump card at this moment, and it was absolutely not something that Chen Hao could resist. No one knew better than her how terrifying this strength was. Sister! Long Yi, who vaguely understood something, exclaimed. He suddenly increased his speed to the limit and charged out. At this moment, his sister was unable to truly use the power that did not belong to her. Of course, he knew how dangerous it was to go out at this time, but he could not stop her. There was nothing he could do to stop her. He could only join forces with his sister and fight side by side with Chen Hao. You've already said it countless times. You talk too much. Boom! Chen Hao was not satisfied with the sudden increase in strength and the ancient aura in Guan Yu's pressure. He felt that it was too early, but there was nothing he could do. Guan Yu was not born to train him, right? He could only fight. At this moment, since Chen Hao had found his own Tao, he had gone through more than 10,000 battles in the second world. He had not used any of his unique skills. But now he finally burst out. In his mind, the strongest attacks of countless cultivators flashed through his mind like a movie. His mind, qi, soul, zhenyuan, and body were all adjusting at the speed of light and sparks. Tiny cracking sounds came from every cell of his body and every wisp of thought in his soul. More than 10,000 things he had learned and comprehended exploded with a bang. At this moment, the world fell into absolute silence. Chen Hao's soul, mind, will, body, cells, true essence, all of his strength, all of his mind, all of it, 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 all of it condensed into his fist. Was it destruction, immortality, ethereal, or devouring? It was indescribable. The only feeling Chen Hao had was that this punch of his was beyond the restraint of space and the shackles of heaven and earth. It was more powerful than any of his previous strongest attacks. It was the first time he had used a punch that fit the Tao. His Tao. A punch that fit his Tao. Within a radius of 100 miles, all of the energy and sound disappeared. It was like it had fallen into absolute silence. Long Ting, who was rushing over, stopped. Long Yi stopped. Guan Yu was stunned. At this moment, whether it was Guan Yu who was fighting, or Long Ting and Long Yi who were coming to help, they were all stunned. They were completely stunned by Chen Hao's punch. In their eyes, in their hearts, and even in the depths of their souls, there was only Chen Hao's shocking punch. Apart from Chen Hao's fist, everything else disappeared. Everything became dim and dark. Only this fist, which was in accordance with the grand Tao of the world, emitted a dazzling and translucent light. Heaven and earth lost their colors. Boom, 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 boom. When Chen Hao's fist, which was as bright as the stars, penetrated the dense wind and palm shadows that were 10 times or even 100 times stronger than the energy contained in his fist, and hit Guan Yu's chest, a terrifying explosion that shook the heavens and earth broke the silence. Translator's thoughts Lu_Kaishin editor, Valvrave when Chen Hao's fist, which was as bright as the stars, penetrated through the dense wind and palm shadows like a hot knife through butter and hit Guanu's chest, a terrifying explosion that shook the heavens and earth broke the silence. To be exact, it was not true silence. It was just that Guanu, Long Ting, and Long Yi had just returned to their bodies after being shocked by Chen Hao's punch. They had heard the voice that had been there for a long time but had just been heard. There was no scream, only the sound of the explosion. But what Long Ting and Long Yi saw was unbelievable. Guanu, whose physical body was so strong that it was comparable to Long Ting's, had his chest pierced through by Chen Hao's not-so-strong punch. His entire body was like a cannonball, wildly spitting out blood. He didn't let out any shrill cries as he was sent flying backwards. It seemed that Guanu's mind had collapsed the moment he was hit, and he had fallen unconscious, bang. Thousands of miles away, Guanu, who was seriously injured and unconscious, directly hit a huge lava mountain. Then he softly rolled down like a dead dog. In the void, Chen Hao, who was standing proudly, looked at his fist in a daze. Very carefully, very carefully. That expression, that appearance, it seemed that even he himself did not expect that his punch would be so powerful. Great Tao, this is my great Tao, the power of my great Tao? Chen Hao murmured. A little. I just fitted a little. Ha! Soon after, a wild laughter that looked down upon the world rolled out from Chen Hao's roar. However, he only managed to laugh halfway before he stopped abruptly. Under the gazes of Long Ting and Long Yi, Chen Hao seemed as if he did not feel the madness and surprise of the two people who were rushing towards him. He scratched his head and said, I can't find that feeling now. What a pity, what a pity. Looks like my comprehension is far from enough. It wasn't an epiphany, it was a coincidence that allowed me to use it. Brother Chen. Hao. Chen Hao. Long Ting and Long Yi came in front of Chen Hao, but they did not dare to speak until Chen Hao finished muttering to himself and looked at them. They knew very well that Chen Hao was immersed in the subtle comprehension after the battle, so they naturally did not dare to disturb him. Let's go and see that guy first. Sister Ting, you take me. Chen Hao said with a smile. When he woke up, he found that his whole body was weak. Whether it was his essence, qi, spirit, true essence, or physical strength, they were all sucked out. Moreover, his physical body, which did not feel anything during the battle, was obviously seriously injured at this moment. Of course, this was nothing to Chen Hao. Moreover, Chen Hao knew that when his physical injuries were healed, his physical strength would soar again. With Guanu as the hammer and himself as the iron, no matter how you attacked, he would temper himself 1,000 times. In the world, no one dared to say that there would be no one like him, but Chen Hao was probably the only one who dared to do this. Moreover, even if Chen Hao was bewitched by the crazy fighting spirit, it was crazy to make such a decision. It was absolutely testing the law, but it had to be said that he succeeded. He was even more certain that the freakish strength of his physical body was not something that could be measured by pure physical strength and strength. Long Ting's face was slightly red as she replied. Her beautiful face was also serious, but at the same time, she sent a sound transmission. Big brother Hao, you saved my life. How should I repay you? What repayment? We're on the same side, so there's no need for that. Chen Hao sent a voice transmission, yet he was speechless in his heart. This little girl has experienced such a miserable and suffocating matter, and she's just escaped danger, yet she's actually so careless as if it hasn't left any shadow in her heart, and she's starting to tease me at this time. This was originally something that should make Chen Hao feel disgusted, but when facing Long Ting, not only did he not feel disgusted, it even made him have the impulse to like this little girl even more. Because Long Ting was obviously not affected in the slightest by his terrifying punch from before, and she didn't change in the slightest because of his heaven-defying performance. She still maintained her pride and her sense of self. This was extremely precious even to Chen Shui and the other girls, and it was a rare commodity worth hoarding. How can that do? I have nothing to repay you with. Why don't I repay you with my body? Let's talk about it later. Chen Hao didn't even dare look at Long Ting, and he even slightly regretted allowing Long Ting to fly with him. He's heavily injured and unconscious. Brother Chen, his mind was surely shocked by your shocking punch, and coupled with the enormous injury to his body and mind, he fell unconscious. He's probably still trapped in your fist inside at this moment. Let me seize this opportunity to kill him. Brother, I'll do it. No, little sister, let me deal with such a person. I must kill him with my own 2 hands to vent the hatred in my heart. Little sister, it's the same if I make a move. The 2 of them argued without reason, yet both of them were obstructing the other and were unwilling to give up, and they insisted on making a move themselves. This caused Chen Hao to be bewildered. What's there to argue about? All of you stand back, I'll do it. As soon as Chen Hao finished speaking, Long Ting and Long Yi suddenly stopped arguing, and they stood before him at the same time as they spoke. Don't argue with me, little sister, listen to me. Bang! Clang! The aura around Long Yi's body erupted abruptly as he drew his sword. Bang! As if she didn't hear her brother's words, Long Ting instantly erupted with a terrifying strength, and with a swoosh, she stood in front of Long Yi and said, Brother, this is my business, I don't want you to take responsibility for it. Chapter 596. Upon hearing Long Ting's words, Chen Hao faintly sensed that something was amiss and asked with a frown, What do you mean? In Chen Hao's opinion, whether it was Long Ting or Long Yi who killed Guanyu, it was meaningless. After all, Guanyu's current state was all thanks to him. It could be said that the most elusive and unpredictable providence in the world had basically been gathered by Chen Hao. Long Ting and Long Yi would just be casually slaughtered, and the providence they could obtain was very little. This was also the reason why Chen Hao did not understand what the 2 of them were fighting about. Even if there was, given the sibling relationship between Long Ting and Long Yi, why would they fight over this? But now, Long Ting's words vaguely revealed that whoever killed Guanyu would have to bear the consequences. What did this mean? Guanyu is the only heir of the Gua family and the only direct disciple of Yan Baiyin, the supreme of Hongmeng and the ruler of the Ya'ing planet. Regardless of his identity, his death will inevitably cause a commotion on the Ya'ing planet, and there will be a thorough investigation. Moreover, it's not impossible to invite an expert skilled in the great deduction technique. Although my sister and I are considered people of great providence who are protected by the law of heaven in the vast universe galaxy, it's hard to guarantee that we won't be found out. More importantly, I believe the Gua family and Yan Baiyin are aware of Guanyu's operation this time. Long Yi said as he blocked Long Ting. You mean this guy can't be killed? Chen Hao hurriedly stood in front of Guanyu, who looked like a dead pig, when he saw that the 2 of them were about to start a fight. That's not it. Our Long family won't be bullied by them. It's just that it's inevitable that they'll take revenge on us in the future. Long said, Then why are you fighting over him? Does it matter who kills him? They'll think you killed him anyway. This is because there's an agreement between the top forces on the Ya'ing planet. Agreement? Yes. The 5 great clans, the Long family, and the other 4 top forces, a total of 10 top forces, have a common agreement. After all, the competition between the top 10 forces was very fierce, and secret battles were happening all the time. This agreement was made to protect the genius disciples of the top forces. No matter which faction the genius disciple was killed, whether it was within the rules or not, once the culprit was found to be someone from the top 10 factions, and if it was an expert of a higher level, then that faction would have to provide a genius disciple with the same level of talent as the disciple who was killed, and the faction that killed the disciple would have to send out a cultivator of the same level as the expert of the higher level to duel. In fact, it would be suicide 1 for 1. If the culprit was a genius disciple of the same level, then that disciple would have to unconditionally accept the challenge of an expert of the same level from the opposite faction, and fight to the death. If you win, then this matter is over. If you lose, then naturally you have to pay with your life. Long Yi said with a serious expression. Hearing Long Yi say this, Chen Hao finally understood what the 2 of them were fighting about. It was nothing more than a matter of who killed him. According to the agreement, Whoever killed him would have to send an expert of the same level to engage in a life and death battle with the other party. After a slight hesitation, Chen Hao said, "There's no need for the two of you to fight over this, is there? It's fine if Sister Ting killed him. After she regains that kind of power, no disciple of the same level on the Ying planet would be a match for her, let alone the Gua family, right? Could it be that the Gua family still has a supreme expert of the human immortal realm? Brother Chen, if only it were as simple as you think. Indeed, no one in the Gua family, or even the entire Ying planet, can defeat my sister when she uses that kind of power, but this agreement doesn't limit the identity of the challenger. This kind of thing has happened many times in the past, and no murderer has been lucky enough to survive. The Gua family and Yen Baiyin, a dignified paragon, know of my sister's true power. How could they not find a freakish celestial immortal? Although my sister is strong, she's not strong enough to suppress all the freakish geniuses of the vast universe galaxy. They only need to find a freakish genius from the vast universe star. The vast universe star was the true core of the vast universe galaxy, the true Holy Land, and the planet that represented the pinnacle of the human race. It was also the origin of the vast universe galaxy's name. If Chen Hao were to be recruited by a top force in the vast universe galaxy, he would inevitably have to go to the vast universe star. That was where the true geniuses gathered. The geniuses there were the top geniuses who could look down on the entire vast universe galaxy. Although the Ying planet was one of the 36 main planets of the vast universe galaxy, the gap between it and the vast universe star wasn't small at all. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the difference was as great as the distance between heaven and earth. One gathered all the geniuses under the Ying planet's rule, while the other gathered all the geniuses of the entire vast universe galaxy and the entire human race. Was there even a comparison? Moreover, all the top geniuses of the Ying planet would be recruited by the vast universe star. This phenomenon was similar to that of the top universities on Earth, where all the geniuses they recruited were the best of the best. Even the worst of them would be the most awesome in other universities. I see. Then how about this? Don't kill anyone. I'll handle it. No! Long Ting and Long Yi stopped him at the same time. Absolutely not. Brother Chen, the fact that you saved my sister's life is already a great favor to the Long family. Apart from my sister and me, no one else knows your true identity. Even if Yen Baiyin invited an expert of the great deduction technique, with your super good luck, they won't be able to determine your true identity. But if you kill Guanu, it's hard to say. Once it's confirmed that it's you, you won't be able to resist. After all, you're from the Wuji planet. Brother Chen, don't blame me. This is the truth. Identity and background are the most important bargaining chips. Don't misunderstand. I'm not going to kill him. Not kill him? Long Ting and Long Yi were even more puzzled. Don't worry. I won't kill him, but I won't let him go either. In short, my solution is to make this world lose the real Guanu. Just like what he's going to do to Sister Ting. As Chen Hao spoke, he picked up Guanu, who looked like a dead pig, and said, "Let's go. Get on the aircraft. Our mission now is to kill the escaped soul." Brother Chen, what are you going to do? Take over. Seal the soul. Don't worry. His soul is now in a state of collapse. It can be suppressed and sealed easily. As long as we don't destroy his soul, no matter if it's the Gua family or his master, they won't find out anything happened to him. No. Chen Hao, if you do this, what about your physical body? I don't agree. If you change to his physical body, I'll be disgusted. Absolutely not. When Chen Hao heard Long Ting's words, he immediately laughed out loud and said, "No, it's not like I'm going to take over his body. I have a soul slave. Let's go." Chen Hao's words made Long Ting and Long Yi speechless. At the same time, they were even more shocked. What did a soul slave mean? To be able to have a soul slave was something any cultivator could do. However, in the entire cultivation world, no one would accept a soul slave. First, when one's realm increased, any soul slave would be treated as an inner demon and killed under the terrifying heavenly punishment. Moreover, the stronger the soul slave, the stronger the heavenly punishment attack. Therefore, no matter how one nurtured it, it would basically be destroyed. Second, a soul slave in one's soul was undoubtedly like a ticking time bomb. Once one's soul was in danger, it was very likely that one would receive a terrifying backlash. It was even possible that the soul slave would become the master. Who would dare to put a ticking time bomb in one's soul? After all, the soul slave contract wasn't omnipotent. It was as unreliable as a slave that had broken through the shackles. Although the probability was very small, no one dared to play with their own foundation, their soul. However, when Chenhao said this, it was obvious that he didn't capture a soul slave just for Guanyu. It had been there for a long time. Such boldness, how could the two not be shocked? Brother Chen, don't you know the danger of a soul slave? Long Yi said directly, after this time, don't do anything like a soul slave again. Once an accident happens, it will be beyond redemption. Brother Hao, you actually have a soul slave. This is very dangerous. Long Ting said through voice transmission. I also subdued it not long ago. There are some things on it that are very useful to me, so I temporarily kept it. I didn't expect that it would come in handy this time. I'm so lucky. That's good. Hearing Chenhao's reply, the two of them heaved a sigh of relief. Let's go. Xiaoji, you still control it. Yes, Master. Brother Long, Sister Ting, when you encounter the escaping primordial spirit later, you will deal with it. I'll deal with this guy first. But after Chenhao finished speaking, a squeak sound came from the aircraft. A separate space immediately isolated Chenhao. Phew! After Chenhao threw Guanyu, who was like a dead pig, on the ground, he sat down cross-legged. Ito Ta, are you confident? Master, don't worry. As long as Master helps me succeed in the possession, I have absolute confidence in suppressing him forever. Over the years, my soul has risen because of Master's improvement, and I have also obtained a huge harvest. This harvest is something that I can't achieve no matter what. Coupled with Boss Old God's destructive training, I believe that my soul will is definitely very strong. Besides, Master and Boss Old God, you will help me look after it. Ito Ta said excitedly. However, after saying that, he still didn't have much confidence. In the end, he still brought up Chenhao and Old God. You have followed me for so many years. Even if you have no merit, you have worked hard. Today is the time to liberate you. Moreover, your luck is good. This guy is definitely more powerful than me in terms of physical strength and strength. Although his soul has been shattered by my fist that is compatible with the Great Tao, it is not directly destroyed. This shows how powerful he is. At this moment, there is still a tendency to condense. After the possession is successful, you must be careful. The 3 souls and 7 spirits are all isolated. You must not give him any possibility of condensing, understand? Yes, Master. Let's start, I can't wait. Ito Ta said. Chapter 597. Chenhao didn't say anything more. He was well aware of this guy's excitement. Therefore, with a thought, the crystal-clear soul, which was only the size of a date, left the body and went into the space between Guanyu's eyebrows with a chi sound. If Long Yi and Long Ting saw Chenhao's soul at this moment, they would be shocked again. This was definitely not the shock of a soul reaching the peak of the late stage of the Earth Immortal Realm and about to break through to the Heaven Immortal Realm, but the size. But it was not a big shock, but small. By right, the soul should be bigger and stronger. However, ever since Chenhao's battle with Dongfang Han, his soul had mutated once again and became like this. And this was because it had grown a lot. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be the size of a sesame seed. But the degree of condensation was beyond imagination. Phew! Chenhao appeared in Guanyu's hazy mind space. Fortunately, it's so chaotic. If my punch was a little stronger, this guy's body and soul would have been destroyed. Chenhao's powerful soul perception didn't need to be activated to easily capture the aura of Guanyu's soul residence, which was on the verge of collapse. Is that the powerful inheritance of this guy? After Chenhao entered Guanyu's soul residence, he looked at the core of the soul residence. At this moment, only that place was still emitting a dark, ink-like light. Although the color was different, the ancient aura it emitted allowed Chen Hao to instantly determine that it was the golden rune that Guan Yu had activated. However, at this moment, the golden rune that was originally sealed on the surface seemed to have run out of energy and became blurred, allowing the original color inside to shine. It was only the size of a fist, but it was as black as the Tai Chi yin-yang fish. Just by looking at it, Chen Hao knew that it was an incomplete magic treasure. It's just an incomplete magic treasure, but it can make this guy's strength increase so much, and it's acquired. I'd like to see what it is that can be so strong. Chi. Chen Hao's powerful soul directly turned into a streamer and flew over. From the conversation between Long Ting and Guan Yu, he had already roughly understood some information about this so-called inheritance. Long Ting was a true inborn, which was when she was still in her mother's womb. She had received this legacy Dharma treasure, but this guy had received it after birth. Moreover, according to the meaning of the conversation between the two, the Hotian acceptance was against the natural order, and the backlash was very terrifying. The reason why Guan Yu could bear it was because his master had used an unparalleled supernatural power to forcibly seal some of the backlash power in the form of runes on this incomplete magic treasure. Even so, Guan Yu had to endure unbearable torture in the middle of every month. Furthermore, as his cultivation increased, the backlash from the seal would become stronger and stronger. When the seal could no longer be sealed and he could no longer withstand the backlash, it would self-destruct. The only solution was to obtain Long Ting, who had the other half of the magic treasure, and use the advantage of Long Ting's true inborn, as well as the complete combination of the magic treasures when the two of them practiced dual cultivation, to relieve his pain. However, this was not a fundamental solution. At best, it would allow Guan Yu to reach the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. If he wanted to break through to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, even with Long Ting's dual cultivation, he would not be able to withstand the increasingly powerful backlash. This was also why Long Ting said that Guan Yu would die a horrible death, but Guan Yu firmly believed that before reaching the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, he would encounter a greater opportunity that could solve this problem. When Chen Hao was about 10 feet away from the black inherited magic treasure, the terrifying pressure and the black light screen made him unable to move forward even an inch. "Open for me!" Chen Hao sent out a pure thought and rushed directly toward the black magic treasure. Boom! What a terrifying protection! To Chen Hao's surprise, not only was his will completely reflected back, it even contained a strand of pressure that charged towards the boundless primeval qi, and it struck directly at the depths of his heart. If Chen Hao's state of mind and will hadn't been condensed to the point of being firm like a rock, and if he didn't withdraw his will swiftly, his mind would have probably been injured. This was something that Chen Hao did not expect. Guan Yu's soul is on the verge of collapse, and it is impossible for him to have consciousness. It is normal that I can't possess him, but how can he attack on his own? Could it be? Yes, this magic treasure must have a powerful weapon spirit. And it is very likely to be an ancient weapon spirit like the old deity. Phew. It seems that it will take a lot of effort to get it. Forget it, let's deal with Guan Yu first. Thinking of this, Chen Hao no longer hesitated and released his soul power to the limit. Absorb! Chi. Guan Yu's soul, which was on the verge of collapse and was completely scattered in the soul residence, was immediately absorbed by Chen Hao's powerful soul power. At the same time, a mysterious soul-sealing light condensed from pure thought shone out. At this moment, Chen Hao heard Guan Yu's shrill scream, but it was not the scream of the soul, but the remaining obsession of the soul that had completely lost its consciousness. Phew. His soul is on the verge of collapse, but his soul power is still so strong. It is not weaker than my peak state. I think it has something to do with the pain he has to endure every month. Fortunately, I accidentally burst out with a punch that is compatible with the great Tao of heaven and earth, which made his consciousness dissipate and his soul collapse. Otherwise, it would be impossible to refine and possess him. Chen Hao clearly felt that Guan Yu's soul state, strength, and will were definitely much stronger than Dongfang Han's. It seems that it will take some time. Now, what Chen Hao had to do was to completely refine Guan Yu's soul power, and after obtaining all his memories, he had to completely disperse and seal his soul. In short, he could not destroy it, but he had to refine it to the weakest state. Only in this way, Guanu's soul would not be destroyed, and it would be easier for Itoda to suppress him. This was undoubtedly much more difficult than destroying Guanu's soul. When Chen Hao began to refine and take over Guanu's body, the aircraft named Huaxiao No. 1 by Chen Hao was also shuttling quickly in the void. Its powerful detection system was activated to the extreme to capture the escaping primordial spirit. This is no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. It has been 2 hours, and several cultivators have been found, but none of the escaping souls have been found. Long Ting sat cross-legged in the aircraft, looking at the constantly changing scene in front of her. Every time a cultivator was detected, the aircraft would hide its aura within a certain range to avoid shocking the world. However, after 2 hours, no escaping souls had been found. It should be known that the aircraft's speed was much faster than that of a soul. Don't worry, Brother Chin is looking for his cultivation partner anyway. Just take it as an opportunity. It's not a serious problem whether we can find those souls or not. They were the Gua family's men of sacrifice, and their lives were in the hands of the Gua family. Without their physical bodies, they were of no use to the Gua family. After all, no one was willing to pay a huge price to reconstruct a body for a man of sacrifice at the Earth's celestial stage. Therefore, they did not dare to come to Guanu. In this way, they still had a little chance of survival, but it was not big. The aura on the surface of Planet Blaze had reached the mystic fire stage, which was the nemesis of souls. Their only chance was to possess another cultivator, but that was also not very likely. Although their souls were at the Earth's celestial stage, possession did not depend on the stage of the soul. The most important thing was the state of mind and will. The human celestial stage cultivators who dared to come here were all geniuses of the Asian Ing planet. How could their state of mind and will be weak? They were just men of sacrifice with a slightly higher stage. Moreover, they were only at the nascent soul stage. If they wanted to enter the other party's mind, they would have to attack when the other party was in danger or seriously injured. Otherwise, they would be discovered as soon as they got close. With the power of their nascent souls, it would be strange if they were not destroyed. Long Yi said, "What if one of them is lucky and succeeds in possession? Small Intelligence 1, can you still detect them?" "Of course. The aura of their souls has been locked on. Moreover, your worries are unnecessary. It is estimated that we will encounter the first escaping soul in 8 minutes. Are you sure? This is the best pursuit route that I have analyzed based on the speed of the other party's nascent soul, the possible escape route, and our speed. The accuracy rate is 34%. Smart Brain One said. You can analyze it with just these few points? If I am the one who is escaping, what if I change my direction and route at all times? The detection system has a maximum detection range of 5 million miles. When they started to escape, they recorded the escape route that the detection system could detect their aura at that time. Just now, for 2 hours, I was recording the field model of their escape route and analyzing it. I was able to get the habit of their subconscious to choose the route according to the terrain. Long Ting and Long Yi were a little dumbfounded when they heard Small Intelligence One's explanation. He was smarter than a human. Didn't that mean that Chen Hao, who had created the incomprehensible brain Little Wisdom No. 1, was even smarter? Beep beep beep. Lock on to the escaping soul. Catch up in 3 minutes. Long Ting or Long Yi, please get ready. About 5 minutes later, Small Intelligence One's mechanical voice was heard. It was exactly the same as the 8 minutes it said. Let me do it. Long Yi said with a little surprise and excitement. Although such a powerful flying device could not deal with a real master, it was too abnormal to deal with ordinary people. In the independent space, as Chen Hao refined, countless memory fragments flashed through the depths of Chen Hao's soul like a movie. What shocked Chen Hao was that just receiving Guanu's memory had caused his state of mind to fluctuate countless times. It had to be said that this guy's experience was too terrifying, too complicated, too abnormal, and too awesome. Many things that Chen Hao had never thought of, and secrets that he was not qualified to come into contact with, appeared so clearly in his heart. This was definitely a precious treasure. Chapter 598. No wonder this guy has such a deep grudge against Long Ting. Memory fragments about Long Ting kept appearing. Chen Hao had only refined and received less than 1/3 of Guanu's memory, but among the memory fragments that appeared irregularly, there were countless images and information about Long Ting. The content of these memories made Chen Hao, who was still refining, laugh out loud. Talents, they were definitely talents. One of them thought that he had no flaws. For 30 years, almost 30% of his energy was spent on Long Ting, but in the end, what he got in return was more and more ruthless slaps in the face. Guanu's perseverance and forbearance that was more powerful than the Ninja Turtle were really admirable. Chen Hao absolutely admitted defeat. Chen Hao didn't know if others could do it, but he was sure that if he and Guanu were in each other's shoes, he would definitely not be able to be such a Ninja Turtle. Because Long Ting was really too awesome. Her strange face-lapping skills, which were full of wonderful ideas, made Chen Hao feel for the first time that people really had their own specialties. The word admirable was not enough to describe Chen Hao's worship of Long Ting. Similarly, whether others could do better than Long Ting, Chen Hao didn't know, but he knew that he couldn't catch up with her, and the horse was a Fergana horse. How many times did he fucking fantasize? What a beast! As the amount of information increased, Chen Hao couldn't help but curse out loud in his soul. He saw Guanu's pure spiritual revenge after being slapped in the face by Long Ting again and again. There was no bottom line, and the revenge was shameless to the extreme. Because this pure spiritual fantasy was only for Long Ting, but for some poor girls who were fantasized by him to be Long Ting, it was simply, Chen Hao didn't know what to say. Although it was tragic, he was willing to be beaten. There is so much information. The legendary noble circle is really messy. This was Chen Hao's only conclusion. The memory fragments, which had no pattern to speak of, were constantly being refined and received by Chen Hao. The more information he received, the more complicated it became. Chen Hao increasingly felt how pure he used to be. Compared to these young masters who could do whatever they wanted on the Asianing planet, he was as pure as a little white flower. Pure, flawless, and pure as jade were not enough to describe him. Motherfucker, my worldview has been destroyed, and my relationships have been ruined. If it was someone with a weak will, their state of mind would probably be affected. However, putting aside these memories, it's still a huge fortune for me. This wealth was much richer than the Itoda that Chen Hao had obtained when he first started out. To be exact, there was no comparison at all. Guanu was the only heir of the Gua family, which was the head of the 5 big families. He was the only core disciple of Yen Baidan, the master of the Asian Ing planet and the master of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. What he had seen, heard, done, and experienced were things that only the top people on the Asian Ing planet could come in contact with. If he was not at his level, he would never be able to touch them. To be exact, he could not even think about it. As the saying went, reality was always more exciting than fiction. Beep. Lock on to the last target. Arrive in 3 minutes. Long Ting or Long Yi, please get ready. 3 days later, with the help of Small Wisdom Number 1's abnormal calculation and analysis ability, as well as the detection ability that was many times greater than that of an Earth celestial stage expert, the last nascent soul that thought that it was out of danger and was waiting near the entrance of the blazing flame eye, looking for an opportunity to possess someone's body, was also locked onto. Sister, let me do it this time, right? Let me do it, let me do it. You've done it 7 times, and I've only done it once. Chen Hao's first batch of 10 cultivators whose bodies were destroyed but whose primordial spirits were not killed. One of them was killed by Long Ting when she went to meet Long Yi in the aircraft. That was to say, only 9 of them had escaped. Now, 8 of them had been killed. Long Yi only had one chance to do it. The others were all killed by his domineering sister. Her excuse was that she couldn't kill Guanu and she needed to vent her anger on these small fries. Swish. Ta. Let me do it. Ta. Ah. Suddenly, A burst of gloomy, evil, and excited laughter rang out. Long Ting and Long immediately looked in the direction of the sound. Long Ting was very familiar with this voice. She was so familiar with it that when she heard this voice, she subconsciously wanted to explode. Fortunately, Long Ting immediately thought of what was going on, so she forcibly suppressed her strength. This was no longer Guanu Bam. To Long Ting and Long Yi's surprise, Chen Hao, who had just appeared, directly slapped Guanu's head and said, "Guanu will laugh like this? Master, I'm just excited. I can't help it, I can't help it. You can't be excited. From now on you are Guanu. Everything you say and do must be strictly according to his habits. All the memories have been changed to you. You must strictly follow them." Chen Hao said seriously. "Yes, master." Although Itoda had received Chen Hao's instructions, he couldn't change his inherent personality and thinking in such a short time. At this moment, when he heard Chen Hao, he forcibly restrained the evil on his face and said, "Master, let me try my skills. Go." "Brother Long, Sister Ting, let him do it. This guy just got his body and is very excited." Chen Hao looked at Long Ting and Long Yi, who were staring at Guanu, and said, Sister Ting, don't be excited. This is no longer Guanu. His name is Itoda." Looking at Long Ting's fierce eyes and the fluctuations of energy in her body, Chen Hao had to remind her. "Let him cover his face tightly, otherwise I may not be able to control my hands and feet." Long Ting said, "Did you hear that? Why don't you cover it?" Chen Hao was a little speechless, but he could understand, so he turned to look at Itoda and said, "When I kill this primordial spirit, I will change my appearance. DDD. Itoda, please kill him." At this moment, Xiaoji No. 1 directly called out Itoda's name and gave the order. Shua. At the same time, the cabin door opened. Itoda was excited, and he couldn't help but let out a wolf howl. His body suddenly shot out, and his speed and the terrifying aura that bloomed made Long Yi a little surprised. But Chen Hao, Long Ting, and Long didn't expect what happened next, and what made Itoda extremely depressed was that, when the last primordial spirit suddenly sensed the aura of the aircraft, it was already frightened out of its wits. When Guanu flew out of the aircraft, the primordial spirit was so scared that it almost peed its pants. Of course, if it still had a physical body, it wouldn't be so bad. Therefore, when it saw Guanu in the void, this guy decisively and without hesitation detonated his primordial spirit. When his physical body was destroyed, he didn't dare to send a message to Guanu. When he was running away, he thought of this possibility, but he didn't expect it to be so fast. If he was caught by Guanu, it wouldn't be as simple as having his body and soul destroyed. Detonating his primordial spirit was undoubtedly the best choice. "Brother Chin, what are you going to do with him? It's okay if he's here, but if he leaves Planet Jin, you can't let him go back to the Gua family, and you can't let him see his master. Otherwise, if there's any abnormality, he will be suspected. If it's Yen Baiyan in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, he will probably see through the abnormality of his soul. So, it's best not to let him expose his identity as Guanu, and not let anyone who knows him find out. This way, the Gua family will think that he's training on Planet Jin." In the aircraft, Long Yi glanced at Itoda, who had changed his appearance and aura, and said to Chen Hao, "Don't worry, when the time comes, I will put him in a secret place. Nothing will happen." Chen Hao smiled slightly. Even if it was Long Yi and Long Ting, Chen Hao had to be careful. It was not that he couldn't say it, but it was not necessary to say it. "That's good. Now that the matter is settled, let's train separately. Contact me if there's any situation." Although Long Yi still had a lot of questions he wanted to ask, Chen Hao didn't take the initiative to ask, so he didn't ask. After experiencing this incident, Long Yi also understood that Chen Hao was far more mysterious and powerful than he thought. This was definitely not something that could be measured by the conditions of Wuji Star alone. "Master, I apply to go find Matriarch Xiaoyan alone, and train my body at the same time." At this moment, Itoda's appearance had changed into his original appearance. Although he tried to maintain a normal appearance in front of Chen Hao and the others, it was still difficult to hide the innate evil aura in his expression. Go, remember my principles. Also, you heard what Brother Long said just now, don't expose your identity as Guan at any time. Chen Hao said. Understood. My master's principles are my principles, Itodas. I will follow master's example. I am Itoda now. Itoda said valiantly. So we have to train separately. Chen Hao, what do you think about this? I'll let you have the aircraft, right? Before Long Ting could finish, Chen Hao interrupted her. You know, it's not easy for me to come out for training. I have to take a bath every day, and I have to ensure that I have enough sleep. Especially because I used my strongest power, and I haven't recovered yet. I've been busy for the past 2 days, and my cultivation has stopped. If I have Xiaoji number 1 to cooperate with me, I can guarantee that I can cultivate, do missions, help you find Tentai Lien and… Okay, stop talking. I'll let you… Oh, right, this thing on Guan, do you need it? Do you have a way to merge it with you? Chen Hao suddenly took out the ink-black inheritance magic treasure that exuded an ancient and terrifying aura, causing Long Ting and Long Yi to exclaim at the same time. How did you take it out? Long Ting was surprised. Chapter 599. Don't ask me, I'm also very curious. In Guanu's memory, once this kind of treasure is obtained, unless his body and soul are destroyed, no one can obtain it. And even if his body and soul are destroyed, it seems that the person who can obtain it is also dependent on luck. Yes, this is an ancient spiritual treasure. If you don't have enough luck, you can kill it. But doesn't this mean that your luck made it change its owner? Long Ting was only halfway through her sentence when she suddenly realized that this was completely impossible, but it was really happening before her eyes. Long Yi also didn't know how to describe his feelings. Damn, in just 2 days, it brought too much stimulation. Even if Chen Hao was a very close friend, brother, and even future brother-in-law, it was too exaggerated, it made him jealous. It's not that exaggerated, it's just that I easily took it out from his soul palace. It didn't change its owner. Chen Hao said, this thing is not very useful to me, and if you need it, you can take it. You really want to give it to me? Don't you know its value? Long Ting said, besides, I can't use it even if I get it. Cough cough. Little wisdom one, please help me open the cabin door. Brother Chen, sister, I'll go first. Long Yi said straightforwardly, that Ito Ta, you go to the side, we'll go together, I'll go this way. Okay. Chi-Chi, under the cooperation of Little Wisdom 1, the two directly flew out of the aircraft and quickly left. Chen Hao shook his head at the leaving Long Yi and Ito Ta. He naturally understood that they wanted to give him and Long Ting some space, and then he said, I thought you might have a way. Since you don't, I'll keep it for myself to study. Basically, you can't study anything, your half is pure yin, mine is pure yang. But no matter which half, it needs to be in the state of true inborn to be able to really merge with it. When my Long family's ancestor got this half, I just didn't say anything. The ancestor directly used the supreme divine art to directly enter my soul palace. As for Guan, you should have seen the various drawbacks of the acquired chi from his memories. Brother Hao, don't try to refine it for me. Although I have already decided to repay you with my body. And I will also be very touched. But why don't we leave it for our future son? At that time, I will also be able to complete my cultivation, and I can directly integrate half of myself and half of you into me. Pa. Long Ting pointed at her graceful and seductive slender waist and said without the slightest reservation. Chen Hao, on the other hand, was instantly speechless. This is a very serious issue. Let's talk about it later. Alright, I'm leaving now. Chi-Chi. Chen Hao didn't allow Long Ting to say anything and immediately wanted to escape. Wait, Brother Hao, I'm serious, don't try to refine it. You should be clear about Guanu's memory. Once you refine it, even if I cooperate with you obediently, you will be imprisoned in the Daluo Jingxian in the future, and you will never be able to improve. Long Ting seemed to have expected Chen Hao to run, so she took the lead and stood at the cabin door, opened her arms, and stopped him. Also, are you going to give me the yin-yang nirvana pill? No, I need this thing. Chen Hao said. But I will keep this thing. At that time, I will definitely give it to you. Long Ting said firmly, staring at Chen Hao with a look of not giving up. In fact, Long Ting was also forced to have no other choice. Although she didn't know how many memories Chen Hao had obtained from Guan, whether there were memories related to the yin-yang nirvana pill and all the related aspects, she knew that Chen Hao definitely understood the purpose of her drug. This was also the reason why she dared to say such an awesome topic like "son" earlier. Looking at Chen Hao's reaction, he ought to have known, otherwise, his reaction would probably be much more intense and speechless. Whereas now, he only said a single sentence, "Let's talk about it later. I can deal with it, you just have to give me blood essence in the future. In any case, I don't need it now, right? Moreover, don't you feel that there are still many obstacles between us?" Chen Hao could only explain when he saw Long Ting like this. Not many, at that time, what's done is done, and all the obstacles will automatically disappear. However, since you've said so, then I'll leave it for you. I'll take it as you've agreed. But don't give it to others, otherwise I won't let you off. This thing is most effective only when used by us. Alright. Can I leave now? Yes. But slap. Be more reserved in the future. But this. Before Chen Hao left, he gave Long Ting's little but a hard slap. Damn it, he was a man, but this little girl forced him to be like Lu Xiaohui. How could he do this? However, looking at the little girl's red face after he slapped her, Chen Hao felt quite satisfied, and laughed loudly as he left. Xiaoji number 1, prepare the attack system. Shoot him. I'm sorry, you don't have the authority to attack the owner. I'm the owner now. I'm sorry, I only have one owner. In the aircraft, Long Ting was rubbing her, but that did not hurt, but was itchy to the depths of her soul. Her face was red, and when she heard Xiaoji's reply, she was so angry that she wanted to beat him up. Unfortunately, Xiaoji number 1 did not even have a body. I haven't even refined the medicine that I take. Why is he like this? Could it be that he's too deeply in love and has no other choice? No, I have to be more determined than him, more patient. At most, I won't refine the medicine that I take. Billions of miles away from Chen Hao, Long Ting, and the others, two strange cries suddenly came from a huge flaming eye on the blazing star. Whoosh, whoosh. Accompanied by these two strange bird-like cries, the mouth of the flame that spanned thousands of miles suddenly spewed out a terrifyingly high temperature. The temperature of the mouth of the flame, which was originally at the 3rd level Mystic Fire Realm, directly rose to the 5th level Mystic Fire Realm. If an ordinary cultivator was here, he would definitely be scared witless. Even the top geniuses at the human celestial stage could not withstand the 5th level Mysterious Fire stage, let alone enter it. Master, thank you, Master. We finally made it. The flaming eye was almost deep in the core of the blazing star. Two strange birds circled in the terrifying flames and said excitedly. Each of the two strange birds was about 10,000 feet long, and their bodies seemed to be completely made up of terrifying mysterious fire, which gave off a very terrifying aura. However, their voices were like that of children, which were very young and full of childlike innocence. They did not know how to conceal their excitement at all. Below the two strange birds, there was a figure that was sitting cross-legged and wrapped in raging mysterious fire. At this moment, he was looking at the two strange birds with surprise. Did you make it? Is this what you looked like in ancient times? Yes, Master, we have regained the appearance of the real ancient divine beasts. However, Master, we are still too small, which is far from our peak state. You are already 10,000 feet long, and you are still small? Of course, Master, we are the inheritances of the ancient divine beasts. In the past, because of the problem of opportunities, we have never really recovered. Fortunately, Master, you are so powerful that you can make us what we are today. Some of our inherited ancient divine powers have been activated. When your cultivation stage is upgraded, we will also upgrade, and our bodies will become bigger again. Our final form, which is our peak state, is comparable to the size of a small planet. Is this true? Of course it is true. Master, how are you now? My balance is broken. I miss him. I don't know how he is now. Let's go back immediately. Yes, master. Swoosh, swoosh. The two little birds. No, they should be big birds now. After hearing their master's words, they turned into two streamers and disappeared into the core of the young girl. This young girl, who seemed to be surrounded by endless flames, was none other than Tantai Lien, who had arrived at the fiery star a long time ago and made Chen Hao and the others worried about her. At this moment, her aura was extremely powerful. The horrible, mysterious fire in her body was so high that it could definitely force a powerhouse at the Earth's celestial stage to retreat. Her aura was only at the peak of the later stage of the human celestial stage. Condense. Swish. When Tantai Lien's graceful and delicate naked body stood up, a fiery red light burst out from her body. Immediately, a set of blue armor, which was emitting dazzling light, appeared on her body. The armor seemed to be surrounded by endless blue flames, which were flowing slowly. Every time it made a circle of light would surround Tantai Lien's body. Is this the Phoenix Dark Armor? Yes, Master. Isn't it very powerful? Let's go out now. You should hide your aura. I think those 3 shameless fellows should have already left. Master, don't worry. It's good that they didn't leave. We can use them to reconstruct our golden bodies. It's a pity that they should have left. It's been several months. The aura of the 5th level mysterious fire? This fluctuation should be coming out soon, right? Second brother, third brother, cheer up. This woman must have obtained a lot of flame crystal marrow. As long as we can get it, we will be rich. I hope so. Otherwise, it would be too depressing to waste several months here. My underlings are so bored. Big brother, second brother, let's make a deal. After we get this woman, I will be the first one to get it. Haha, but it's not like she's a virgin. Whoever gets it first will get the precious primordial Een. We're only interested in her peerless beauty. It's great. Moreover, this woman's fire spiritual body is too powerful. You will be the first one to taste it. You can help us explore the way. Otherwise, you will burn your underlings into charcoal. Ha! Chapter 600. Tantai Lien rose from the blazing flame eye that was millions of miles deep. Her long hair was dancing in the wind, and her robe was fluttering. The endless 7-fold mystic fire that could burn an ordinary cultivator into ashes didn't affect her at all. She didn't even activate her protective true core strength. 5 months ago, she was only at the peak of the initial stage of the human celestial stage. She had completed the task of collecting the blazing flame crystal marrow. She didn't leave immediately because she wanted to find the high-level mystic fire that could rebuild the body of the phoenix. Instead of leaving immediately, she entered the blazing flame eyes to search for a place closer to the core of the star. It was at that time that she met 3 powerhouses who had just entered the peak of the advanced stage of the human celestial stage of the blazing flame star. The 3 of them were greedy when they saw Tantai Lien, who was only at the peak of the initial stage of the human celestial stage, had escaped from a blazing flame eye that even they felt was dangerous. Tantai Lien had been cautious and vigilant since she entered this place. When she saw the 3 of them, she didn't hesitate at all. She ran deeper into the blazing flame eye without hesitation. At that time, she didn't even notice their intentions. She was just avoiding them out of habit. After all, her cultivation stage was too low here. She could only avoid trouble by staying away from any cultivators. In this cruel world of cultivation where the strong preyed on the weak, how could she survive until today if she didn't do that? But this time, she couldn't leave safely like before. Because the 3 of them chased after her with their powerful strength. The gap in cultivation stage made it impossible for Tantai Lien to escape. When she was surrounded by the 3 of them, Tantai Lien knew she was in danger, which could kill her. So, when they asked her to hand over the blazing flame crystal marrow, she chose to give in. The weak were prey, and the strong were respected. This was the cruel world of cultivation. In order to save her life, She had to hand over the blazing flame crystal marrow that she had collected with great difficulty. She thought she could get out of this crisis by doing that. But she didn't expect the three of them would have evil thoughts after seeing her beautiful face at close range. They wanted to violate her, a woman who had lost her vital Yin and had a cultivation partner. That was unbearable. Tantai was completely enraged. However, even with the inheritance of the phoenix, she was like a fish in water on the blazing star. She was able to increase her combat strength by several folds. However, she was still unable to contend with the three powerhouses at the peak of the later stage of the human celestial stage. She could only fight desperately and flee at the same time. There were two reasons why they could do this. Firstly, Tantai was risking her life. Secondly, the Phoenix inheritance could borrow the extremely thick mystic fire energy of the blazing star. Thirdly, the three cultivators who were sure of their victory did not take Tantai seriously at all. In their opinion, they could subdue Tantai in a short while without suffering any injuries. Why should they fight with a person who was struggling desperately? As long as they waited for Tantai to use up some of her energy, she wouldn't be able to jump anymore. Moreover, they wanted to play. How could they let Tantai be too seriously injured? Moreover, if they pushed too hard, Tantai would directly detonate her physical body and soul. Then, they wouldn't be able to see anything. With all these factors added together. Tantai, who was running away, finally had a chance of survival. That was the blazing flame eye that stopped many cultivators. It had to be said that this was Tantai fortuitous opportunity. She had searched high and low for high-grade fiery eyes all over the place, but to no avail. When she was forced into a desperate situation and had to fight while fleeing, she actually encountered one. What was there to hesitate about? Tantai plunged head first into it. Even though the temperature on the surface of the blazing flame eye was so high that Tantai would definitely carefully and slowly enter it under normal circumstances, she didn't have a choice at this time. Even if she exceeded her limit and directly destroyed her physical body, it was still better than being humiliated to death by the three people. In addition to the phoenix's excited urging and strange cries, she didn't hesitate at all, and now, she had succeeded. Even though she wasn't able to enter the deepest part, the seven-layer mystic flame had already allowed her to be reborn. The toughness of her physical body had increased by who knows how many times. More importantly, the phoenix's inheritance had also successfully reconstructed her physical body. She now possessed a trace of the divine ability that came from a genuine ancient divine beast. Feeling the comfortable temperature and the surging power of the mystic flame in her body, Tantai took a deep breath. Like a lotus flower that was untainted by mud, her absolutely beautiful little face blossomed with unprecedented confidence and beauty. This kind of beauty, this kind of temperament, ever since she stepped into the Eastern Continent's cultivation world, she had never possessed or appeared again, because in front of Xia Yu, Helian Wuzi, Chen Shui, and the most important person in her life, Chen Hao, she felt inferior. In the past, in the secular world, in the Xuanwu Empire, no matter when, she was always a blessed girl that made people envious and jealous. But after stepping into the cultivation world, her brilliance no longer existed. In front of Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, and Xia Yu, she always felt that she was just a foil. Even her most powerful phoenix's inheritance was given to her by Chen Hao. Other than this, what else did she have? Even the fact that she was Chen Hao's first woman was under circumstances where she had no other choice, even though Chen Hao treated her very well and had never ignored her since some time ago, but in the depths of her heart, there was always a voice that told her that Chen Hao had no other choice but to accept her. To accept her as a responsible man, to accept her as a man. She knew that this kind of thinking of hers was very extreme, but she also knew that this kind of thinking was basically the truth. Even though Chen Hao would never admit this in front of her, and she would never have the courage to ask Chen Hao. But the strong-minded her didn't want to be like this. This wasn't what she wanted Chen Hao to really accept her and fall in love with her, just like Chen Hao's love for Helian Wuzi, just like Chen Hao's love for Xia Yu at first sight, just like Chen Hao and Chen Shui's mutual appreciation of each other and mutual help through life and death. Therefore, She was always working hard and risking her life for the sake of the beliefs in her heart. She wanted to be able to win a place in Chen Hao's heart that truly belonged to her. She didn't want to be given alms. Especially when she saw Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, and Chen Shui showing amazing talents that made her pale in comparison, she was even more desperate. She didn't want to lose to anyone. This kind of obsession almost drove her crazy. Now, in less than a year, she finally made amazing progress with her own strength. From the initial stage of the human celestial stage, she stepped into the peak of the later stage of the human celestial stage. Whether it was her physical body, soul, or state of mind, they all had a qualitative transformation. It was a real rebirth. Moreover, the inheritance of the phoenix had successfully reconstructed her golden body and evolved into a real ancient divine beast. Although they were only the embryonic form of the ancient divine beast, although they had only awakened a little bit of the ancient divine beast's magical power, it was still very significant to her. Because she had found her own direction, found a clear goal that belonged to her to fight for, her Tao. Fire. Pure fire. Her Tao was to incarnate into the most brilliant fire in the world, the fire of light, the fire that could give people warmth and burn everything in the world. The gradually rising beautiful figure and the confident smile on her otherworldly face finally blossomed with confidence and beauty after so many years. Just like her in the secular world of the Eastern continent, she was once untainted by the mortal world. It seemed that she was sentimentally attached to the fire eye that brought her miracles and gave her confidence. The speed of her ascension became slower and slower. Perhaps it was because her state of mind had suddenly transcended and she, who had regained her confidence, had an unprecedented clarity in her mind. The color of the world seemed to have changed in her eyes, and the burning flames seemed to have changed. She stretched out her hand and held balls of mystic fire that were emitting faint blue light, and they danced around her, and she seemed to have transformed into a fire spirit. The faint blue mystic fire followed her as she ascended, gathering more and more, becoming denser and denser, and spinning faster and faster. She felt the intoxicating warmth, and her state of mind had never been so clear before. Gradually, unknowingly, naturally, she felt the pulsating pulse in the flames, like the throbbing of life. There was no surprise, only a natural flow. She seemed to know, to be exact, she truly felt the joy of the flames, the dance of the flames, and the emotions of the flames. At this moment, countless flames and profound flames seemed to have found their home. They took the initiative and began to join her side in high spirits, dancing along with the flames that danced lightly and gracefully. It was also at this moment that a wisp of understanding, like a clear spring, cleansed her heart. Boom. Similarly, it was also at this moment that her mind naturally exploded. A loud and clear strange cry suddenly broke through the air, penetrating through the endless flames, penetrating through the flames that were millions of miles deep, reaching the horizon and resounding through the clouds. Sizzle! 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 In the fiery eye above millions of miles, when Tantai Lien transformed into a fire spirit, the flames danced on their own, and the inheritance of the phoenix broke through the air by itself, surging up the energy waves of the heavens and earth that spanned millions of miles. The entire blazing flame star suddenly shook violently. The endless flames, the vast and magnificent flames, suddenly burned and danced with a sizzling sound. At this moment, countless cultivators looked at their surroundings in horror as they stared at the void. What happened? Everyone could feel that the originally hot but lifeless flames seemed to have suddenly come to life. Or rather, it was as if they were affected by some mysterious force and became active. What's going on? Or rumble. Rumble. The three powerhouses at the peak of the later stage of the human celestial stage, who were waiting near the fiery eye where Tantai Lien was, had thought that Tantai Lien, who had entered the fiery eye, would come out when they sensed the five-fold heavenly fire that suddenly surged out of the fiery eye. Just now, they were joking about how they would get a large amount of blazing flame crystal marrow that Tantai Lien had collected in the fiery eye after coming out of the fiery eye. Then they would enjoy waiting for several months. However, at this moment, a horrible fluctuation suddenly came from the heavens and earth, which was centered on the fiery eye. Especially when the two strange bird cries resounded in the heavens and earth, which they were familiar with, they sensed a strong danger at that moment. It was a pity that they didn't even have time to escape. The raging flames that gathered from all directions drowned them. Then, they burned and exploded. Chapter 601. The three cultivators who had once forced Tantalian into a desperate situation were dead. Not even ashes were left of them. The phoenixes cried out in unison, and the flames surged. The two former little birds were the first to emerge from the blazing flames. Their cheerful and loud cries contained endless pressure, the pressure of ancient divine beasts. At the same time, they also contained a kind of mysterious fluctuation. This fluctuation was not controlled by the will of the phoenixes. It spread in all directions, and was transmitted by the boundless and omnipresent flames. They soared to the highest heavens, and their enormous bodies intertwined. They circled above the blazing flame eye and dominated the world. All the cultivators within thousands of miles of the blazing flame eye were frantically fleeing into the distance. Everyone's heart was filled with shock. This was the power of heaven and earth, the pressure released by the blazing flame star. They didn't know who had touched it, but they knew that a certain cultivator who had come to gain experience must have obtained a legendary great opportunity, a great opportunity that could cause the stars to shake. Because at this moment, the dancing flames gave them a clear feeling. A pilgrimage. Billions of kilometers away, Chen Hao had searched for countless blazing flame eyes. After an entire month, he still couldn't sense any of Tantalian's presence. At this moment, the vermilion bird attached to his body, which had grown a lot stronger, suddenly let out a loud cry. Chen Hao, who was flying quickly, also stopped in shock. What's going on? Such a strong tremor of heaven and earth. Master! Master! I feel it! I feel it! What? The aura of an ancient divine beast. It's definitely the aura of an ancient divine beast. 2. Phoenixes. Master, it must be the phoenixes? The vermilion bird said excitedly. It was just an illusion, but at this moment, its eyes shone with a crimson light as it stared into the distance. It seemed to see and sense some profound things that Chen Hao had never sensed before. You mean, little Yen? Master, it must be them. It must be them. Master, do you feel it? The surrounding flames have come to life. This is a pilgrimage. The phoenixes must have successfully reconstructed their golden bodies, and Mistress Little Yen must have comprehended the true essence of the mystic flame and obtained the highest recognition of the mystic flame. Master, let's hurry over. The vermilion bird was inexplicably excited. As an inheritor of an ancient divine beast, even though it had lost the might of an ancient divine beast, its mind still contained the memories of an ancient inheritance. How could it not sense the awakening of a phoenix inheritance that was at the same level as itself? Moreover, the energy waves were transmitted to every corner of the fiery star with the mystic fire as the medium. Moreover, the sudden change in the surrounding mystic flame and the energy fluctuation that made the fire birds submit and worship made it certain that Tantalian, the master of the phoenix inheritance, had obtained the approval of the blazing star's mystic flame. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the entire planet to tremble. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Big Brother Hao, what a strong shaking of heaven and earth. Someone must have obtained a great opportunity. Brother Chin, it seems like someone has obtained a great opportunity. Little Sister Ting, meet me quickly. I need to use the aircraft. The three messages were sent almost at the same time. During this month, Long Ting was leisurely in the aircraft while Chen Hao and Long Yi searched alone. The three of them were in one area, with Long Ting as the main force. They scanned all the fiery star's eyes. Although they kept in touch, they did not meet each other. Especially Long Ting and Chen Hao. If Chen Hao had not reminded her to pay attention to the number of communication talismans she had, this girl would have sent countless harassing messages. Then what should I do? You can use it, but I won't look for it alone. Long Ting replied directly after receiving Chen Hao's message. Then, without waiting for Chen Hao to send a message, she told Little Wisdom Number 1 to change direction and go directly to Chen Hao. She had vaguely guessed why Chen Hao suddenly wanted to use the aircraft and why he sounded so anxious. It was definitely related to the sudden shaking of heaven and earth. Similarly, it was very likely to be related to Tan Tai Lien. Although she had never met Tan Tai Lien, she had some information about her. She knew about the phoenix's inheritance. Without a doubt, the shaking of heaven and earth on planet Jian, which was pure fire attribute, must be a great opportunity of fire attribute. Otherwise, it would not have affected such a large area. Even Daluo Jingxian would not be able to cause such a huge shaking. Pick me up first, then your brother. Let's go together. Chen Hao sent a message. According to Vermilion Bird's senses, it should be very far away. Even with the aircraft, it would take at least 1 or 2 days to arrive. Vermilion Bird was not sure how long the shaking would last and when it would disappear, so they had to be quick. Otherwise, when the shaking disappeared, it would be extremely difficult to find the exact location even if they knew the general direction. Because it was too far away, they could not sense the exact location at all. If they were slightly off, they would be hundreds of millions of miles away. 20 minutes later, Chen Hao stepped onto the aircraft. An hour later, Long Yi boarded the aircraft. Brother Long, you and Sister Ting should help me. What do you want to do? Long Ting and Long Yi asked in confusion. The basic speed of the aircraft is too slow. We have to be faster, Chen Hao said. At this moment, Long Ting and Long Yi had already heard from Chen Hao that the shaking of heaven and earth was caused by Chen Hao. You two just have to take turns to provide ethereal force for me to use. But Long Yi replied. Can this be fast? Long Ting asked curiously. Of course it can be fast. It is purely controlled by Little Wisdom One. It is automatic and does not contain any divine powers. Even the array of the aircraft itself has not been activated. Otherwise, how do you think I was able to get to your side so quickly? Alright, Brother Long, you go first. Long Yi pressed his palm on Chen Hao's vital gate. Vigorous and pure ethereal force immediately surged out. His face was filled with curiosity and a faint excitement. At the same time, his heart was filled with a strange feeling. This feeling was the feeling of being considered a confidant by Chen Hao. This was not the time when they were on the Silver Wing. They had gone through life and death together. No one would dare to do anything bad when they were providing Chen Hao with ethereal force. After all, Heavenly Lord Yuanru was in charge at that time. But now, Chen Hao had given his vital gate to Long Yi without hesitation. If he did not have absolute trust in him, who would dare to do so? After all, Chen Hao had already exposed too much of his wealth. Just this aircraft alone was something that even the Supremes of Hongmeng would be tempted by. At this moment, if Long Yi had any greedy thoughts, he would definitely be able to kill Chen Hao. However, Long Yi would not have such thoughts. Not to mention anything else, he would not do so because of his sister. Moreover, even without Long Ting, he would not do so either. He was just touched by Chen Hao's unguarded attitude towards him and his sister. Buzz. Boom. Chi. Although Long Yi poured his energy into the aircraft, Chen Hao suddenly activated his mind and ethereal force and poured it into the runes of the aircraft. In an instant, the entire aircraft shone with a dazzling and mysterious light. Outside the aircraft, a terrifying energy torrent shot out, and the speed instantly doubled. This was much faster than when Chen Hao activated it alone. This was because with the help of Long Yi, an invincible immortal, he could use most of his ethereal force to repair the damage. Naturally, the endurance of the aircraft would increase by a lot. At the same time, the runes of the power system would operate faster. Unfortunately, the consumption was too fast. After more than 10 minutes, Long Yi could not hold on anymore, and his ethereal force became weaker and weaker. Brother, let me do it. I am the most suitable for this kind of thing. Long Ting looked at the pale and sweaty Long Yi and smiled proudly. Then she pulled Long Yi away. Go and recover. Leave the rest to me. Crack. As she spoke, She pressed one hand on Chen Hao's vital gate, and at the same time, she took a bite of a precious spiritual fruit with her other hand and ate it. Ugh. Chen Hao was a little speechless. That's right, sister, you can do it. When I recover, if it can be faster, I will help. If it can't be faster, I will just watch. Oh, sister, I have some spiritual fruits for you. I said I would give them to you after some time, but now I will give them to you. Splash. Long Yi took out a large pile of spiritual fruits. Brother, why didn't you say so earlier? I have been saving these few days. You have this spirit fruit here. Long Ting immediately saw a spirit fruit that she had accidentally eaten, but failed to equip with an antidote. However, it was by accident that she had no choice but to open the secret book that her mother had told her to only open after she had confirmed her Taoist partner. Of course, it also led to her closer contact with Chen Hao. Is this enough? Long Ting asked the back of Chen Hao's head as she ate. Almost. I have basically reached the limit of the aircraft itself. Chen Hao said. That's good. This way, my consumption and recovery will be equal. As long as I have enough food, you can use it for as long as you want. Long Ting said. Hearing Long Ting's words, although Chen Hao already had a clearer understanding of Long Ting's cultivation method, he was still a little surprised by this terrifying recovery speed. One must know that Chen Hao was absolutely confident in his recovery speed and was also quite proud of it. However, it seemed that in front of this girl, he could not compete at all. Brother Hao, I'm helping you meet my love rival. Won't you promise me one thing? Ahem. Chen Hao, who was a little shocked by Long Ting's recovery speed, immediately coughed awkwardly. Don't worry, I just want you to help me with one thing. Just help me with one thing, okay? Chapter 602. We'll talk about it in the future. How could Chen Hao be in the mood to talk nonsense with this girl right now, so he didn't hesitate to reject her directly. Then we'll talk about it in the future. Long Ting sensed Chen Hao's anxiety and knew not to joke anymore. However, Chen Hao did not feel anything when he said it, but when he heard Long Ting repeat it again, he suddenly realized something. Damn it, am I negotiating? We'll talk about it in the future. Finally, he received Empress Dowager Ito, who had been waiting for a long time. Chen Hao urged the aircraft to begin its journey at full speed. The aircraft shuttled through the endless fiery void toward the source of the fluctuation. Even though it tried its best, the heaven and earth turbulence still disappeared completely after 4 hours. However, to Chen Hao's relief, the aura of the ancient divine beast phoenix did not disappear. The vermilion bird could still sense it clearly. Just as the turbulence disappeared, countless cultivators gathered their energies and flew in the direction they sensed. They wanted to see which lucky person had obtained or activated the legendary Great Opportunity. At the same time, they also wanted to see if they had a chance to obtain it. Even if they couldn't eat the meat, it would be good to have a share of the soup. What's more, there was a chance of obtaining it. After all, according to the records, although the cultivator who activated the Great Opportunity had a high chance of obtaining it, most of the time, he was only the one who activated it and not the final winner. As for the cultivators who were closer to the scene, they were still trying their best to escape 4 hours ago. At this moment, they were returning directly. It could be said that countless batches of cultivators on the entire blazing flame planet had rushed over to join in the fun, regardless of their strength. The law of the jungle between cultivators was, after all, relative. The more people there were, the safer it would be. The most frightening thing was to meet someone on a narrow path. Just like when Tantai Lien and the 3 cultivators met, the other party killed Tantai Lien, and no news of it leaked out, so they would not be punished by any alliance. After all, the alliance clearly forbade cultivators from fighting among themselves. It was just a formality. It could not be prohibited at all. It only had a certain degree of restraint on the surface. The probability of obtaining a great opportunity is indeed very high. I hope it's only activated and I haven't obtained it yet. As long as I haven't obtained it, this opportunity will be mine. On the blazing flame planet, Mo Xiaozong, a disciple of the Sky Mist sect, a top force in Xiantian City that was only 10 million miles away from the place where Tantai Lien had caused the world to tremble, turned into a streak of flowing light. He could clearly feel that the turbulence of the heavens and earth was not very far away from him. Otherwise, it would not be strong enough to make him want to escape. This was an excellent opportunity. He believed that the other powerful opponents would not be as lucky as him to be so close to him. Winning time meant winning an opportunity. And he was already standing in front. The only thing that worried him was that the person who activated the great opportunity had already obtained it, or the person who activated the great opportunity was Long Yi and Long Ting from the Long family, Zhu Peifeng from the Black Sword sect, or Wei Wushuang from the Celestial sect. If it was the two from the Long family, it would be the most troublesome. If that was the case, the chances of snatching a great opportunity would be very small. A primordial divine beast. It's definitely a primordial divine beast. It seems to be a phoenix? That aura is too strong. Motherfucker, if we didn't run fast enough, we would have already turned into ashes. What do we do now? What do we do? Of course, we have to go take a look. That's definitely a true primordial divine beast. That aura is too strong. However, I believe that this is only because of the turbulence of the heavens and earth that they caused when they were born. It's definitely not that strong now. As long as we can obtain their inheritance and become their master, we'll be rich. Let's go, we brothers will rely on our own luck. What if it's still that strong? We'll undoubtedly be courting death if we go over? That's right. In my opinion, we should wait. With such a terrifying turbulence of the heavens and earth, I believe that other cultivators will flock over. With our strength, there's no need for us to be the vanguard. Let's observe the situation first and wait for an opportunity to take action. But then let's go closer first and wait. The cultivators who were closest to the source of the tremor and were almost swallowed by the terrifying energy turbulence of the heavens and earth basically heard the phoenix's cry that resounded through the heavens and earth. They also saw the gigantic body that spanned thousands of feet. At this moment, the turbulence of the heavens and earth ended. Those who were bold and powerful quickly returned without hesitation, while those who were weaker did not dare to approach immediately. Rumble. In less than half an hour, a strange cry that resounded through the heavens and earth was accompanied by a terrifying explosion that resounded through the horizon. This caused all the spectating cultivators to stop hesitating and start to approach quickly. In less than an hour, at least a few hundred cultivators from various batches who had stayed for longer periods of time and who had just arrived a month later than Qin Hao and Long Ting's batch, appeared in the vicinity one after another. At this moment, most of the cultivators did not hide their auras and started to converge toward the destination. When they saw the two strange birds that spanned thousands of feet above the blazing flame eye that was emitting surging heat and had reached the level of level 5 mystic fire near the entrance, every cultivator who had just appeared could not help but gasp. This is a newly born primordial divine beast, a phoenix. What a powerful aura. A real primordial divine beast. Rumble. Isn't that Mo Shoutsong from the Heavenly Mist sect? He can't even withstand a single attack from the phoenix? The cultivators who had just arrived were all shocked when they saw a young man being attacked by the terrifying flames and rolling back thousands of miles. Mo Shoutsong from the Heavenly Mist sect was a top master in the celestial realm on the Asian Ing planet. He was also a top genius disciple and was also known as the Invincible Celestial. However, he was not as famous as Long Yi. After all, Long Yi's terrifying record in the arena, which was a complete victory, was a bit too high profile. However, such a master, who made most of the people present sigh in admiration, could not even withstand a single attack from the phoenix. The primordial divine beast, a phoenix, is a fire bird with pure fire properties. It can definitely exert several times its power on the blazing flame star. Although it has just been born, it is impossible for us masters in the human celestial realm to take it down. Everyone. At this moment, Mo Shoutsong, who looked embarrassed and whose long hair had been burned into ashes, suddenly summoned his true core strength and said loudly, "These two newly born primordial divine beast phoenixes are both ownerless. We should join forces to take them down. As for who can successfully contract with them, it depends on our own luck. No matter who it is, once they recognize him as their master, I believe his strength will be greatly improved. Moreover, your phoenix is guarding the mouth of the blazing flame eye. What does that mean? Emo Xiaozong's voice was full of bewitchment. Although he was very unwilling at this time, he had to say his guess, which was basically confirmed. There was no other way. With his strength alone, or the few people who had dared to attack just now, they could not suppress the phoenix at all, let alone enter the blazing flame eye with a powerful aura. It means they are guarding the blazing flame eye. I'm sure there must be something extraordinary in the blazing flame eye. It is very likely to be a great opportunity that has not been seen in thousands or tens of thousands of years. Crash, that's right. It must be so. The turbulence of heaven and earth just now was so terrifying. It must be an unimaginable opportunity. Immediately, someone in the crowd echoed. And if we want to obtain this great opportunity, we have to subdue the phoenix. Those who dare to come here, I believe you are all smart people. The longer we wait, the more cultivators will rush over. In that case, the chances of us obtaining the treasures will be lower. Yes, why don't we join forces and act quickly? That's right. Let's join forces to subdue the phoenix. Whoever successfully contracts with it will depend on their own luck. Then, we will rush into the blazing flame eye. Whoever obtains the opportunity will also depend on their own luck. If you agree, then step forward. Those who do not dare to attack, but those who dare to interfere, we will kill them together. Okay, I agree. I'm in. Boom, boom. In an instant, hundreds of figures rose into the air, each of them activating their strongest protective aura. Everyone knew that Emo Xiaozong's words were right. If they worked together, whether they could obtain the opportunity would depend on their own luck. This was the best way. No one could subdue a phoenix that could unleash several times its combat strength alone. Moreover, if they delayed any longer, their chances would become smaller when countless cultivators arrived. However, there were a few cultivators who did not have confidence in their own strength and chose to give up. This was because they knew that if the phoenix's attack had landed on them, their bodies and souls would have been destroyed. Although they also wanted to obtain the phoenix and obtain the great opportunity, their lives were more important. Good idea, I agree too. Right at this moment, a loud laughter that resounded through the heavens and the earth abruptly sounded out from 5,000 kilometers away. The laughter hadn't finished when the person appeared before everyone's eyes like a spark of lightning. It was Wei Wuxuang of the top sect of Xiantian City, the Celestial Sect. Emo Xiaozong frowned slightly when he saw the person, but he could not refuse. Phew. Fortunately, I came in time. Brother Emo, your bald head looks good. Wei Wuxuang looked at Emo Xiaozong's sorry bald head and laughed. The provocation in his words was self-evident. If you have the ability, why don't you try fighting me alone? I dare not. Brother Emo, I know your strength very well. Although you are not as good as me, you are just a little bit weaker. Barely on par? Let's begin? I know that Zhu Peifeng will be here soon. Everyone, don't worry. Opportunity is not something that can be obtained with strength. It depends on your own luck. Let's work together to take down these two strange birds. After the phoenix, let's rely on our own luck. So much nonsense. Let's do it. Emo Xiaozong, who was unhappy, attacked first. Chapter 603. Sush. Suddenly, Wei Wuxuang and all the other cultivators who had the thought of not being able to eat the meat and drink the soup, and who also had the mentality of being lucky enough to obtain a great opportunity, attacked one after another. Boom. At this moment, the circling phoenixes once again let out cries that resounded through the world. Their cries were filled with monstrous fury. Especially towards Emo Xiaozong, the instigator, she hated him to the extreme. Damn it, if it weren't for this guy's bewitchment, Phoenix was confident that she could block all the nearby cultivators from the fire eye and would never let any of them affect Master. Tantai Lien suddenly had an epiphany and caused the fluctuation of heaven and earth in the fiery star. She did get a great opportunity. At this moment, she didn't fly out of the fiery eye. Instead, she went deeper into the fiery eye. Even the two phoenixes couldn't follow her. They were ejected from Tantai Lien's mind by a mysterious force. Undoubtedly, this was a great opportunity that belonged to Tantai Lien alone. It was definitely a fire attribute opportunity. Otherwise, the phoenixes wouldn't have been ejected from her body. Of course, the phoenixes didn't insist on following Tantai Lien. They knew that the great opportunity triggered by their master had shocked the entire fiery star. If everything went well, countless cultivators would come here. Therefore, they took the initiative to guard her. The moment they came out, they sensed the three cultivators who had forced their master into a desperate situation. They destroyed the three cultivators with the help of the horrifying energy that erupted at the beginning of heaven and earth. But now, facing the siege of hundreds of cultivators at the peak of the later stage of the human celestial stage, the phoenixes didn't have absolute confidence. They didn't know how long they could hold on. But they knew they had to stop all the cultivators. They couldn't let them disturb their master. They couldn't let them rob their master of the great opportunity. Rumble, bastard, break it? Ah, phoenixes, don't resist if you don't want to die. Let me make a contract with you. I will treat you well and let you achieve more. Ah, facing the attacks of countless cultivators, the phoenixes activated the magnificent mysterious fire in heaven and earth. Combined with their own strength, they displayed a horrifying attack power. Some of them were brave and fearless but weak. Some of them were stupid and tried to make a contract with the phoenixes. But all of them were devoured by the horrifying mysterious fire. Hatred, fury, the wrath and terrifying power of an ancient divine beast was vividly displayed. The phoenixes knew very well that they could not be merciful at this point in time. Only by displaying their terrifying destructive power from the beginning could they intimidate some people. Only by doing so could they last longer. As long as they persevered until their master completed the great opportunity, there would be no need for them to stay here and fight. At that time, with their master's combined strength, escaping from this place would not be a problem. Ah, too strong. No, I don't want to die. In just a short span of 2 minutes, seeing more than 10 cultivators perish under the phoenix's sudden and terrifying attack, some of the cultivators finally realized the great disparity in strength. They were so scared that they retreated from the siege. If he couldn't even withstand a single attack from the phoenix, what else could it be other than courting death? At this time, they also understood that the ancient divine beast phoenix did not use its strongest power when dealing with Mo Xiaozong. If they had known that he was so strong, even if they were greedy, they would not have dared to join. Don't be afraid, everyone. The phoenixes must have pushed their limits at this moment. Those who can't hold on for long, attack with all your strength and take them down in one go. As long as you can withstand one of their attacks, don't retreat. Those who are weaker can also join forces to resist. We have to be quick. Mo Xiaozong saw that at least half of the cultivators had retreated and immediately became anxious. Suddenly, the phoenix endured the attacks of the people around it and desperately condensed an extremely powerful phoenix seal that condensed a terrifying mystic fire. It crazily enveloped Mo Xiaozong, who was trying to bewitch them. Angry? Very good. Mo Xiaozong spoke harshly, but in his heart, he unleashed all his strength and frantically dodged to the side. He felt a little suffocated. Even if an ancient divine beast was just born, it had inherited memories and wisdom that was not inferior to humans. What did the current situation mean? It meant that he had angered the phoenix and was definitely a thorn in its side. But he still did it even though he had thought of this from the beginning. It couldn't be helped. Who asked him to be strong and eager to obtain a great opportunity? Rumble, the terrifying phoenix seal spanned tens of thousands of feet. Mo Xiaozong frantically dodged, and the slower cultivators along the way were swallowed by the raging mystic fire. However, the phoenix's spiraling figure had also suffered heavy injuries. If it were not for the thick flames of the mystic fire, The two fellows' injuries would have directly affected their combat strength, and it would be difficult for them to recover quickly. There were more and more cultivators. Although there were many who retreated from the battle, there were even more who joined the battle. Strength in numbers was indeed the truth. The phoenix's 1,000-feet golden body that had just been reconstructed was already in a terrible state. Their attacks were also becoming weaker and weaker. And the more the cultivators fought, the braver they became. This caused the phoenix to have no choice but to move closer to the fire eye step by step. Because only in this way could the mystic fire they came into contact with become more advanced, replenishing themselves and the mystic fire that they could use to make up for their weakening combat strength. Time passed minute by minute, and the phoenix held on bitterly. Its cries also became weaker and weaker, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Just when the phoenix could no longer hold on and was on the verge of collapse, a sudden change occurred. Boom! The majestic and terrifying mystic fire suddenly gushed out from the blazing flame eye and instantly enveloped the phoenix that had retreated to the entrance of the cave, disappearing in a flash. Immediately, the entire cave erupted like a volcano, spewing out a terrifying heat that shocked everyone. 9-fold mystic fire. Oh no, retreat quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Accompanied by screams, the cultivators who were confident of winning all retreated in horror. Those who were slower or weaker were directly annihilated by the terrifying 9-fold mystic fire. Wei Wuxiang, who had mocked Mo Xiaozong a few hours ago for becoming bald, was even more miserable this time. Not only his hair, but the surface of his body had also turned into black charcoal, and he did not look human at all. If not for his powerful strength that protected his mind and erupted with the most powerful force, he would have been destroyed in both body and soul. Mo Xiaozong, who also felt that victory was in his hands, also turned into black charcoal and flew out with heavy injuries. How is it possible? How can such a terrifying mystic fire come out of the cave? What level of mystic fire is this? 7th level, 8th level, or 9th level? Countless cultivators looked at the mystic fire that shot into the sky in horror, and they were puzzled in their hearts. Everyone only stopped when they realized that the 9-fold mystic fire did not spread in all directions but only swallowed near the cave entrance. However, no one dared to walk over at this time. There was no doubt that this was a protective seal born from a great opportunity. No one knew that the two little birds, Phoenix, also cried out in shock at that moment. Even they did not understand how the blazing flame eye could spit out such a terrifying mystic fire. 9-fold mystic fire. Moreover, the realm of this mystic fire was not something that they could withstand for the time being. However, after a short moment, Phoenix realized that the 9-fold mystic fire was clearly enveloping them, but it was not a threat at all. Not only that, but it also seemed to have turned into the warmest energy that quickly poured into their bodies. Phoenix, what's going on? Could it be that Master has obtained a great opportunity and is helping us? No. If Master has obtained a great opportunity, we should be able to communicate. We don't even have telepathy now. Then what's going on? Where did this 9-fold mystic fire come from? Why is it helping us? Phoenix, I don't know either. Little Phoenix, hurry up and recover? Or you? Phoenix was stunned by the old voice that suddenly appeared. It was as if it was right next to their ears, but they could not sense any aura at all. I'm the blazing flame star. Yes, to be exact, I'm the spiritual intelligence that was born from the core of the blazing flame star. In the past, I've met many of your kind who came to me to advance. However, the two of you are too weak. Yes, it's mainly because your master is too weak. Senior, how's our master now? She's still immersed in her comprehension. However, although your master is very weak, I didn't expect that she would be able to comprehend the origin of fire and awaken me. It's a pity that she didn't rely on herself, but because of the two of you. Of the two of you, only one of you truly belongs to her, right? Yes, that will depend on her luck. However, I seem to feel that there's an ancient divine beast inheritance that's weaker than the two of you and is rapidly approaching. If its master can also comprehend the origin of fire and enter here first, your master will have no hope. Unless your master's other half also comes, then there's still hope. The absolute balance of yin and yang is very important. Of course, if the two of you can guard the entrance and not let anyone in, your master still has the greatest hope. Thank you, Senior, for your help. No need to thank me. Your master woke me up and is the one who opened the opportunity. It's only right for her to give you some convenience. It just depends on whether you can grasp it. At most, I'll help you guard for 4 hours. Moreover, I won't stop anyone who can withstand the 9-fold mystic fire. We definitely won't let anyone in. Our master will definitely obtain a great opportunity. The Phoenix said with incomparable determination. After the 9-fold mystic fire finished speaking, it directly whistled and rose to the entrance of the blazing flame eye again. Chapter 604. It has recovered? The cultivators who had gathered near the eye of blazing flame were shocked when they saw the phoenixes appear at the entrance of the cave but did not step out of the 9-fold mystic fire's range. Because at this moment, the phoenix's severely injured bodies seemed to have completely recovered. This great chance of fortune must be extraordinary. The 9-fold mystic fire appeared and the phoenixes protected it with their lives. What a pity! Let alone these 2 abominable phoenixes, we can't even break through the 9-fold mystic fire. Yes, that shouldn't be the case. Since it's a great chance of fortune, there's no reason to stop all of us from entering, right? It's fine if the phoenixes are blocking it, but the 9-fold mystic fire has appeared. Who dares to enter? Moreover, I don't think the phoenixes are the guardian beasts of the great chance of fortune, but more like an inherited divine beast with a master. Yes, the great chance of fortune is in the eye of blazing flame, and the person who triggered it is their master. Now, they're blocking all of us from entering and fighting for the great chance of fortune. That must be it. How do you explain the 9-fold mystic fire? Although the fiery star is an impasse-level mission for us, the highest mystic fire realm is only at the 9th level. Even if it should appear near the core of the fiery star. There is no reason for it to appear at the cave entrance. It's simple. Didn't you see the phoenixes recover in such a short time? Moreover, the phoenixes have just been promoted to ancient divine beast. As far as I know, they can't control the 9-fold mystic fire now. Not only are they fine in the 9-fold mystic fire, but they also quickly recovered to their peak state. You mean their master has controlled the 9-fold mystic fire? Is that possible? The cultivators who came to the blazing star were all in the human celestial realm. Everyone knew that it was impossible for a human celestial realm master to control the 9-fold mystic fire. The cultivator who thought he had seen through the essence of the phoenixes was at a loss for words. I got it. But at this moment, another cultivator suddenly thought of something and said loudly. The cultivators who were already attracted by their conversation looked at that cultivator immediately. You should have heard or read some records that the great chance of obtaining the great chance of fortune is the cultivator who activated the great chance of fortune, right? Of course, the one who opened it has the right time, place, and people. Naturally, the chances of success are higher. Didn't you hear the seniors who obtained the great fortuitous encounter say that the person who obtained the great fortuitous encounter would usually receive special treatment from the great fortuitous encounter? For example, delaying the time for others to enter, or allowing the guardian beast to let them pass, and so on. Therefore, these phoenixes did not necessarily have a master. They, and the sudden appearance of the 9th-level mystic flame, were very likely the great opportunity to take care of the person who opened it. Therefore, I believe that the 9-fold mystic fire will disappear in no time. It's impossible for it to be summoned by the Phoenix Master. Otherwise, it wouldn't just cover the cave entrance, it would come out to kill us. That makes sense. Yes, that should be the case. I've also heard about this from the seniors in the sect. If that's the case, then there's no need for us to take any risks now. This 9-layered heaven's flame. If I can defend with all my might, it'll be pretty good if I can last for 2 minutes. Moreover, there's still the phoenix guarding me. Fuck, I can't even hold on for a minute. We can only wait, The cultivator who was talking suddenly sensed a terrifying aura coming from the void. He immediately looked up at the sky in surprise. The other cultivators who sensed the same thing also raised their heads in surprise. Guanu? It's actually Guanu? What? What a terrifying aura. Is this Guanu's true strength? Mo Xiaozong of the Sky Mist sect, Wei Wushuang of the Celestial sect, and many other genius disciples of Shintian City who knew Guanu were all shocked. Guanu was the only heir of the Gua family, the head of the 5 great clans, the ruler of the Yang planet, and the only personal disciple of Yen Baitin, the supreme master of Hongmeng. However, none of the young disciples in Shintian City idolized him. It was not that he was not strong enough, but because of Long Ting. In fact, even those who had never seen Guanu's true strength could be sure that he was not simple. Not for anything else, but for the fact that he had been accepted as a personal disciple by a supreme master of Hongmeng since he was young. One could judge how awesome his talent was. However, Guanu had been slapped in the face by Long Ting time and time again in the past 30 years. He was still the kind of good-for-nothing who did not fight back, nor did he talk back when scolded. It was really hard for people to worship him. It could be said that he was a joke and a topic of conversation for young people at gatherings. Of course, no one dared to say it in front of Guanu. Now, everyone, including Mo Xiaozong and the others, was shocked as they looked at Guanu, who had descended from the sky and released a terrifying aura. That aura was really powerful, especially the majestic blood qi that bloomed from his physical body, which could absolutely kill everyone present. How strong was such a physical body? A great opportunity? Guanu wanted to. What shocked everyone even more was that Guanu, who had appeared on the scene, did not even look at the people present. He just stared at the entrance of the flaming eye and said arrogantly. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward and slowly flew toward the flaming eye. He did not even put the phoenix, who was glaring at him covetously, in his eyes. Humph, Guanu is really strong, but isn't he too arrogant? This guy was a good-for-nothing when he faced Long Ting. Although he is arrogant now, it is in line with his identity. However, that is the 9-fold occult fire, and there is a phoenix guarding it. He has overestimated his strength, hasn't he? He is overestimating himself. I'd like to see how he can get in. Anyway, it seems that the competition for this great opportunity is going to be 10,000 times more difficult. Seeing this scene, all kinds of thoughts appeared in everyone's mind, but no one dared to stop it, including Mo Xiaozong and the others. Guanu was indeed a joke, and he even had the title of infatuated man. However, when they really faced him, who dared to take him lightly? No one dared. In the entire Shintian City, and even the entire Asian Ing planet, only Long Ting, the first beauty and first witch of Shintian City, dared to slap him in the face without scruples, and each slap was more vicious than the last. When Guanu arrogantly stepped toward the entrance of the flaming eye and was only 10,000 feet away, the phoenix did not wait for him to get close to the 9-fold occult fire and burst out with an extremely powerful attack. Although their attack energy was far from the 9-fold occult fire, it was indeed a divine ability that condensed the mystery of runes. It possessed not only the fire energy that could burn everything, but also a more powerful attack. However, Guanu just snorted and casually waved his hand to destroy the attack of the phoenix inheritance. At the same time, he suddenly sped up and rushed toward the entrance of the cave. Boom! Chi! Get out of my way! The moment Guanu entered the 9-fold occult fire, a vast and terrifying blood qi burst out from his body. Qi, 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 qi. It was accompanied by the horrifying sound of raging energy, the angry cries of the phoenix, and Guanu's cold and harsh shout. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He had entered. Guanu had easily broken through the Phoenix Guard fortress that everyone besieged but could not break through and entered the flaming eye enveloped by the 9-fold occult fire. Sister, what is Brother Chin doing? Long Yu, who was hiding in an aircraft thousands of miles away, asked confusedly. I don't know. He said Ito Oda should stay here, but it's not a long-term solution. What if Ito Oda can't help but leave the Flaming Eye planet? This is not a good place to settle down. Well, I feel something is wrong. Maybe Brother Chen wants to use this great opportunity to really kill Guan? I don't think so. Since he said he would settle down here, the Guo family would think that Guan had obtained a great opportunity, so it's unlikely that he would kill him. I don't know. Let's wait until he comes out. Long Ting said, "Caw caw caw caw." The phoenix's cries became more and more ferocious and terrifying, as if it was also chasing into the depths of the Flaming Eye. This made the surrounding cultivators, especially Mo Xiaozong and the other cultivators with higher cultivation, unable to hold back. Mo Xiaozong was the first to rush out. His whole body was shining with a bright light, and a set of protective soft armor that was obviously a supreme-grade spirit treasure appeared on his body. At the same time, his aura was twice as strong as when he was fighting the phoenix just now. Humph, I knew you were hiding your strength. Now you're panicking? Fortunately, I'm also holding back. Boom. Wei Wuxuang's disdainful voice sounded, and he suddenly rushed into the Flaming Eye. Let's go in too. Fuck, even if we can't eat the meat, we can at least drink the soup. This ninefold occult fire is probably only at the entrance of the cave. Let's go. Let's fight. Boom boom boom. In an instant, dozens of incomparably powerful auras erupted. It was only at this critical moment that everyone burst forth with their strongest power. It was obvious that the smart ones had hidden their strength. No one was stupid enough to go all out at the beginning and let the fishermen reap the benefits when the time came. But, quack quack. An angry, resounding cry suddenly burst out from the depths of the Flaming Eye and quickly approached the entrance of the cave. Fuck! Get out of my way! At the same time, the angry voice of Mo Xiaozong, who was the first to rush in, sounded. Boom boom boom. Accompanied by the terrifying explosion, the cultivators who had just entered the ninefold occult fire and used 90% of their strength to resist the ninefold occult fire were shocked to find that Mo Xiaozong and Wei Wuxuang were retreating in embarrassment, while the phoenix was attacking crazily. Shortly after, terrified cries drifted out from the cave. The cultivators who had just entered fled out one after another in a sorry state. Fuck, why didn't the phoenix chase Guan in? Why did it stop us? Is Guan so powerful that the phoenix can't stop it and doesn't dare to resist? Moreover, the crowd found that it was not that the cave they wanted to enter did not have the ninefold occult fire, but that the cave was also full of ninefold occult fire. This also meant that even without the phoenix, few of them could go deep. At this moment, Guan's image suddenly became countless times stronger in their hearts. What kind of strength was needed to resist the ninefold occult fire for a long time? What kind of strength was needed to make the phoenix give up intercepting him? Chapter 605. GGGA. The seemingly angry cry made the phoenix erupt like a small universe, blooming a much more terrifying power than before. In less than 2 minutes, all the practitioners who stepped into the fiery eye were forced out. It seemed that the anger of being unable to do anything to Guan was transferred to the others. However, no one knew that the phoenix, which seemed to be roaring angrily and blooming with terrifying power, was not really angry, but excited. Humph, my master is here. You trash want to snatch the opportunity from my master? What, he is also half of my master. Yes, it's our male master. The phoenix and the phoenix's childish voices were communicating through the mind. Where was the fart anger? There was only excitement. Vermilion bird, this bastard, is also going to reconstruct its golden body. I don't know how long it will take. If that senior can help it, it can also help us. 2 days later, the ninefold mystic fire will be gone. At that time, I don't know if our male master and female master can finish it. Reconstructing the golden body required absorbing and refining countless mystic fires to complete. The two of them had been refining for several months. But the phoenix knew that if the senior who had just appeared could directly transfer the most suitable mystic fire energy to them, just like how he helped them heal, it would definitely be hundreds or thousands of times faster. There would be no problem for him to help them resist the practitioners. It should be possible, right? The senior said very clearly that as long as my female masters yin and yang reach an absolute balance, she can basically get a great opportunity. It doesn't take long for the human spirit and body to blend. Yes, it's better. The sooner the better. At this moment, if Chen Hao knew that these two little birds were criticizing him like this, he would definitely beat these two fellows up. This motherfucker was clearly cursing him to be the legendary fast gunner. Master, hurry up, I can't do it. The ninefold mystic fire is too horrible. Shut up. Hold on. My physical body is not as strong as yours. Aren't I still fine? Deep inside the scorching eyes, the arrogance, coldness, and insufferably arrogance of Guanu was long gone. At this moment, his entire body was sizzling because of the fire, and the ultra-quality soft armor on his body had turned crimson like a burning iron. His exposed skin was as red as a monkey's butt. Beside him was Chen Hao, who had come out from the state of being one with the world. At this moment, Chen Hao was even more miserable than Ito. His face, arms, hands, ears, and other exposed areas were no longer red. Instead, they were covered with a layer of charcoal black. However, his expression was much calmer than Ito's. Master, if you want to train me, you can train me in the future. I don't want to suffer an undeserved calamity. Mistress Xiaoyan is below. Moreover, Phoenix just said that you guys want to do that. It's not appropriate. That seems to be the case. Alright, I'll let you off for now. Go in. Suddenly, a bright light shone between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Mysterious runes wrapped around Ito. Then, with a flash of light, Ito disappeared in front of Chen Hao. If Long Ting and Long Yi saw this, they would be so surprised that their jaws would drop to the ground. Even the Daluo Jingxian couldn't store living things in his mind space. In fact, only the powerhouses in the Grandmist Supremacy realm could condense their mind space into a real big world, just like the star space. Including the Daluo Golden Wonderland, all the cultivators below the Daluo Golden Wonderland couldn't let living people enter their mind space. This was not allowed by the law of heaven. However, Chen Hao, who was only at the human celestial stage, could store Ito into his mind space. Even if they were master and servant, this was impossible. Huff. Pot. Old God, treasure hunting second brother, look at my body. Isn't it strong? Pot. Don't be so proud. From now on, you will enter this place. What's inside? Go in and you will know. Chi. A shrill scream rang out, and then it disappeared in a flash. Old God looked at the closed light door with a mocking smile, and Treasure Hunter looked sympathetically at the closed light door. I have worked hard for more than a month because of this guy. If I don't torture him, I will be sorry for my master. Old God said without any sympathy. However, this guy's body is really strong. In terms of strength, my master can't compete with him. Train him well and he will be a great help to my master in the future. But aren't you too cruel? Cruel? How can I catch up with my master if I'm not cruel? Ooh. Finally? Chen Hao said with a sigh of relief when he sensed the aura of the surrounding flames. Red Sparrow, come out. This place should be suitable for you. Thank you, master. That's great. 5th level mysterious fire. Just nice. How long will it take for you to reconstruct your golden body? It will take at least a few months. I can endure the 5th level mysterious fire now, but I still need to understand it. After that, I will need to refine my energy. After that, I will need to go deeper and accept a higher level of mysterious fire. I don't want to be weaker than Phoenix and the rest. I need at least 7th level mysterious fire before I can reconstruct my golden body. It shouldn't be done in a short period of time. Then take your time. If Phoenix can't take it anymore, just run in. Yes, master. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly increased his speed to the limit and quickly fell into the depths. It was the first time that Chen Hao had encountered such a natural and bottomless crimson flame. At first, he still needed to increase his speed. However, with the continuous effect of the star core's terrifying gravitational force, he didn't need to exert any strength at all. His speed became faster and faster, and the pressure and heat on his body also became stronger and stronger. When he was 1,000,000 miles down, Chen Hao had become a true flowing light that could travel thousands of miles in an instant. The level of the mysterious fire was only at 7th level, but it gave Chen Hao a feeling that it was even more terrifying than the 9th level mysterious fire with a 1,000 miles long hole. Even though his body had abnormal recovery and endurance, it still burned with a chi-chi sound. Ooh, that's great. Unfortunately, this should be my limit. If this goes on, it doesn't matter if I'm burned into ashes, but it will be troublesome if I delay Xiaoyan. Boom. When Chen Hao thought of this, he finally activated his true core strength again and began to reduce his speed. At the same time, according to the information that Phoenix had given him, Chen Hao also released his extremely powerful soul perception. He knew that it wouldn't be long before he could see Tantai Lian, who he hadn't seen for more than 10 years. His first woman, and also the first woman that he had no choice but to accept. And today, according to Phoenix, he had to do that again under the circumstances that he had no choice but to do that again. However, this time was different from the last time. Chen Hao didn't have any psychological barriers. On the contrary, he was full of expectations. Tantai Lian was crazy and risking her life. How could he not know what Tantai Lian was thinking deep in her heart? However, there were some things that he couldn't say. Even if he said it, Tantai Lian would only think that he was comforting her. However, after this time, Chen Hao would never let his woman take the risk again. No one could do it. It was good that his woman was powerful, but he wouldn't despise her if she wasn't powerful. Being safe and sound was better than anything else. As for the rest, he could take care of it. As a man from Earth, if he couldn't even do this, could he still be called a man? Moreover, now that he had the second world, even if he stepped out of the Ying planet, he could meet her in the second world as long as he was in the vast universe galaxy. In Chen Hao's opinion, strength was no longer important to his woman. Moreover, Chen Hao had also made a decision. He would implement it when he returned this time. He believed that even without such a life-or-death experience, his woman wouldn't be inferior to anyone else. Whoosh, whoosh. Listening to the whooshing sound of the flames beside his ears, Chen Hao's eyes shone with excitement. He stared at the unfathomably deep cave below him. 7th level mysterious fire. 8th level mysterious fire. After descending for millions of miles, the level of the mysterious fire had reached the 8th level. Even though Chen Hao's physical body was strong, he couldn't rely solely on his physical body to withstand it for a long time. Moreover, in order to maintain the state of his physical body, he had to activate his vital essence to block it. Of course, there was another way. He could comprehend the mysteries of each level of the mysterious fire, but that wasn't something that could be done in a short time. Impressive. Really impressive. For hundreds of millions of years, ever since I was born with spiritual intelligence, I've seen many cultivators who had obtained this opportunity. But I've never seen such a valiant fellow. He didn't comprehend the mysterious fire at all, but could completely rely on his physical body to withstand the 9th level heavenly fire. The surface of his physical body was clearly burned into charcoal, but he could still maintain his composure. Is this his body? And the speed of recovery is a little too fast. Is this great opportunity prepared for that little girl or him? It's obviously for the little girl, but why do I feel that it's prepared for him? He has the vermilion bird's inheritance, and also obtained the other half of the phoenix's inheritance together with the little girl. He also rushed over so coincidentally. He could even rely on his physical body to pass through the 9th level mysterious fire test that I set. His luck is really a little too strong. What's more shocking is that he must still be hiding a great secret. He's obviously at the human immortal stage, but he can let living slaves enter his mind. Could it be that the world has changed now? What Chen Hao didn't know was that this blazing star core had spiritual intelligence that was hundreds of millions of years old. When he first entered the blazing star core, it had been paying attention to him. In such a short time, This spiritual intelligence that had been born for hundreds of millions of years suspected that the outside world had changed. How could there be such a freakish human immortal? A human immortal with extremely good luck? A human immortal with even more terrifying hidden abilities? But looking at the cultivators gathered outside, it was obvious that the outside world hadn't changed, but Chen Hao was too freakish. Chapter 606. The Ninefold Mystical Flame. When Chen Hao had descended 10 million miles, the mystical flame around him had reached the highest level, the Ninefold Mystical Flame. Chi, 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 the serene blue flame emitted a terrifying heat. Chen Hao knew that this was just a motionless mystical flame. If he could condense a mystical flame of this level and use it as an attack with his divine inscriptions, he could definitely destroy the body and soul of an expert at the peak of the later stage of the Earth's celestial stage instantly. Phew! Is this the barrier of the great opportunity? Chen Hao resisted the horrifying mystical flame with his body and true core strength. After descending for another 10,000 miles in the ninefold mystical flame, a serene blue barrier, which was condensed and compressed by the ninefold mystical flame, appeared below him and stopped him. I want to see how this little guy can force his way in with his body and true core strength. The rules of the great opportunity of the fiery star state that one must comprehend it. How can I let him break the rules? If he wants to enter, he has to comprehend it obediently. However, this is the negligence of the rules of the fiery star. This little guy has taken advantage of this negligence. It's his talent and luck. Well, I'll give him a little reward and we'll call it even. When the spiritual intelligence of the fiery star saw that Chen Hao was about to enter the star core space with his body and true core strength, it couldn't help but attack him. After all, Chen Hao had passed the checkpoint of the great opportunity with his own strength. However, this checkpoint tested the cultivator's comprehension of the mystical flame. In fact, only those who were recognized by the mystical flame could enter. Otherwise, what was the point of entering the star core space? Therefore, the spiritual intelligence of the fiery star had to forcibly condense a seal to stop Chen Hao from entering. However, this shouldn't be done. The rules of the great opportunity didn't state that one couldn't enter with his body and true core strength. Therefore, it was unfair to Chen Hao. Because of this, the spiritual intelligence of the fiery star had to compensate Chen Hao. Break it for me. An incomparably sharp sword light suddenly blossomed from Chen Hao's body. Rumble. What? What Chen Hao did not expect was that when his attack landed on the mystical fire barrier, it directly caused the mystical fire barrier to go berserk. Not only did it not break, but it also instantly reflected terrifying mystical fire attacks that contained the divine power law. Chen Hao, who was not mentally prepared at all, was not able to avoid them even though his reaction speed was extremely fast. He was directly burned into a bald donkey, and his body was charred black. This is the attack formed by the 9th level mystic flame? So strong. Chen Hao was surprised and frowned. At the same time, just as Chen Hao began to attack, the vermilion bird in the area of the 5th level heavenly flame was suddenly wrapped up in blazing heavenly flames. But what was strange was that these heavenly flames didn't have any offensive power. Instead, they flowed into the vermilion bird's body like tiny streams. The vermilion bird had already comprehended the 5th level heavenly flame and was only refining the heavenly flames first. But now, it was instantly refined and its illusory figure became much more real. At this moment, if the vermilion bird wanted to reconstruct its golden body, it could definitely complete it quickly. But what it wanted was to reconstruct its golden body under the 7th level heavenly flame. Therefore, when the 5th level heavenly flame was refined to the peak, the vermilion bird widened its eyes in shock. What was going on? How did it refine its golden body to the peak in an instant? Little vermilion bird, this is my reward for your master. You're the senior spiritual intelligence of the blazing star? The vermilion bird already knew about the appearance of the blazing star's spiritual intelligence from the phoenix, but it didn't expect that it would help it and for its master at that. That's right. All right, Now I'll raise the mystical fire around you to the 6th level. As long as you can comprehend it, I'll be able to refine it for you in an instant. You're the successor of an ancient divine beast and a firebird, so it should be very fast. Of course, I'll help you awaken a bit of the ancient divine beast's memory. Carefully sense the mystery of upgrading the 5th level mystic flame to the 6th level mystic flame. I'll demonstrate it for you. Following the voice of the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star, the mystical fire around the vermilion bird instantly became active, and its aura gradually changed. The excited vermilion bird knew that her great opportunity had arrived. Thus, she immediately suppressed her excitement and immersed herself in her enlightenment. Under the intentional control of the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star, the mystery of upgrading the 5th level mystic flame to the 6th level mystic flame was slowly unveiled in the vermilion bird's comprehension. By doing this, the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was suspected of pulling up seedlings to help them grow. After all, any law of heaven way could only be achieved through one's own comprehension. If it were an ordinary person with the help of the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star, although he could quickly increase his comprehension of the mystical fire realm, it would be fatal for his future cultivation. It would be even more difficult to advance to a higher level because the consequence of pulling up seedlings to help them grow was that there would be no solid foundation. However, the vermilion bird didn't have this concern. Because it was the inheritance of an ancient divine beast, as long as it awakened the memory of the ancient divine beast inheritance, there would be no such thing as a foundation. In fact, this was the most powerful part of the inheritance of an ancient divine beast. As their realm increased, there was basically no such thing as a barrier. Unless they had already advanced to the peak realm of the ancient divine beast, their inheritance memory and divine powers would continue to improve along with their realm, without any mental barriers. This situation was like a peerless expert being reborn as an ordinary person and starting his cultivation all over again. He had the mental state and comprehension of a peerless expert at his peak state. The only thing he needed to do was to increase his realm. How could it not be fast? Chi. Boom boom boom. Fuck, do I have to comprehend the mystery of the 9th level mystic flame before I can enter? After 10 minutes, Chen Hao was in a sorry state. However, the mystical fire seal in front of him didn't change at all. No matter how powerful Chen Hao was, it could recover instantly. This made Chen Hao extremely depressed. He was in a hurry to meet up with Tan Tai Lian. How could he be in the mood to comprehend the mystery of the 9th level mystic flame at this time? In fact, he hadn't even comprehended the mystery of the 5th level mystic flame, let alone the 9th level. Although Chen Hao thought that his comprehension was great, he didn't think that he could increase it to the 9th level mystic flame in a short time. Now, the cultivators outside were still eyeing covetously. In less than 2 days, the 9th level mystic flame guarding the entrance of the cave would disappear. At that time, the phoenix would be besieged by many experts. How long could it last? I don't believe that I can't break through. Chen Hao's eyes shone brightly. Like burning charcoal at this moment, the aura around him suddenly changed. The spiritual intelligence of the blazing star, who had been paying attention to Chen Hao, was stunned. What is this little guy doing? Why is he so stubborn? He obviously can't and has no hope. He should just give up and start comprehending. Does he have a way to break through? Let's do it. Even if my physical body is turned into charcoal, there's nothing to be afraid of. It seems that changes have started to happen. Chen Hao thought to himself. Since entering the eye of blazing flame, Chen Hao's physical body had repaired itself time and time again while being burned by the 9th level mystic flame. Chen Hao could clearly feel that the cells in his physical body were beginning to recombine. In other words, his genes had started to self-evolve. As long as I can capture its trajectory and merge into it, I should be able to pass through smoothly. Although after passing through, my physical body will be in a miserable state. Phew! The light in Chen Hao's eyes slowly disappeared. The protective qi formed by the vital essence around him was also instantly withdrawn to the extreme. Chi. In an instant, Chen Hao's physical body burned fiercely because it had lost the protection of the vital essence. The spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was even more puzzled. What was this little guy trying to do? In hundreds of millions of years, it had seen countless cultivators. Countless cultivators had also obtained great opportunities here and gained the ability to control the 9th-level mystic flame and obtain the mystic flame's recognition. However, it had never seen Chen Hao's every move, which puzzled it and made it difficult to guess. At this moment, the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star wanted to remind Chen Hao to quickly start comprehending. It had already arranged everything for him and would give him enough time to not be disturbed. This was its compensation for Chen Hao. But now, the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star could not help but be curious. It wanted to know what Chen Hao was trying to do. At the same time, it was also shocked by Chen Hao's abnormal physical body and pain tolerance. Chi-chi-chi. Crackle, crackle. Chen Hao's physical body was burning in pain, but he did not even frown. Of course, the premise was that he could frown. At this moment, his whole face had turned pitch black. His whole body was burning fiercely like a stick. If his physical body was not so strong and each of his cells contained tremendous energy, he would have been burned to ashes directly. In fact, if it were any other immortal realm expert, even if he had a strong physical body like Guanyu, like Chen Hao, if he did not activate his vital essence or physical strength and let the 9th-level mystic flame burn him, he would be directly burned to ashes. But Chen Hao's autonomous evolution genes made his physical body burn very slowly. Chen Hao withdrew all his strength and walked step by step toward the barrier. At this moment, all his mind was integrated into the barrier, grasping the mystery within. With everything in the world, Chen Hao used his body as a blade and the barrier as a rock. As long as he could grasp the ever-changing life trajectory of the barrier, then he could grasp a little bit at a time. He believed that before long he would be able to pass through it. Chi-chi-chi. The moment Chen Hao's body touched the barrier, the powerful and mysterious mystic flame attack once again erupted. But this time, he did not take even half a step back. While Chen Hao endured the attack of the mystic flame, his mind was also operating at a high speed that it had never been before. He grasped the mystery within and inched closer bit by bit. Chapter 607. At this moment, the intelligence of the blazing star was a little dumbfounded and sluggish. What did it see? It was Chen Hao's body, but in its eyes, it was like a sharp knife with thousands of changes. It was constantly changing with the attacks of the magical power of the barrier. Since its mind and the barrier had become one, it could clearly capture Chen Hao's fleshly saber. It seemed to have captured the profound trajectories and patterns of all the attacks the barrier had launched. Furthermore, from the frequent mistakes in the beginning, they gradually merged into one bang. Bang bang. Bang bang bang. Chen Hao moved forward step by step. There was no sound or rhythm, but it seemed to be stepping on the heart and pulse of the intelligence of the blazing star. Ah, what kind of monster is this little guy? How did he do it? How did he do it? The blazing star felt that it was about to collapse. It seriously suspected that what it was seeing now was an illusion. However, the truth was, in just 5 minutes, Chen Hao's entire body was like a sharp knife that had been inserted into the barrier. Moreover, he was constantly changing according to the changes of the mysterious fire barrier that it had condensed. This made it feel as if Chen Hao was grabbing its weak spot. It felt uncomfortable, but it could not stop it, unless it directly detonated the barrier and went into battle to stop Chen Hao with violent attacks. It could only allow Chen Hao to enter. Forget it, forget it. I've already violated the principle to stop him once. This time, if he can pass, so be it. He's the one who loses, not me, the intelligence of the blazing star thought to itself. Without the recognition of the mystical fire and without comprehending the 9th-level mystical fire, even if Chen Hao entered the star core space, he could only help Tantai Lian obtain great opportunities. And his gains would definitely be limited. In fact, this was also because the intelligence of the planet of Blazing had seen Chen Hao's abnormal talent and cherished him. That was why it wanted to let Chen Hao enter only after he had comprehended the 9th-level mystic flame or gained the recognition of the mystic flame. If that was the case, when Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lien merged their bodies, Tan Tai Lien would not be the only one to benefit. Both of them would. But now, it seemed that it was impossible. It had already stopped it once, so there was no way it could stop it again. Rules were rules. Since they were set in advance and were broken by others, changing them once was already the limit. If he changed them again, he would be going against the heavens. Chi. Rumble. Rumble 5 minutes. When there were only 5 minutes left, Chen Hao finally stepped through the mystical fire barrier. It was also at this moment that the mystical fire barrier suddenly collapsed, emitting a terrifying explosion. Boom. At the same time, Chen Hao, whose body had almost completely turned into charcoal, suddenly activated his true vitality. It surged into his dry muscles, tendons, bones, marrow, and every cell. His stiff body did not dare to move at all. That was close. If the thickness of the barrier was just a little bit longer, I'm afraid I would have failed. Well, it's not necessarily a failure. It's just that I need to be trapped inside for a long time to recover, Chen Hao thought to himself. At this moment, other than his perception, he could not see anything with his eyes. In fact, only his mind and dantian, which were the most powerful parts of his body, had not been broken by the mystical fire. Therefore, he had to activate his energy to block the 9th-level mystical fire around him and let his body recover. Crack, crack. 6 hours later, the sound of eggshells cracking could be heard around the motionless Chen Hao. 12 hours later, her tender, translucent, baby-like skin began to be exposed. Phew! While the blazing star was dumbfounded, Chen Hao let out a long sigh and opened his eyes. 2 streaks of blue light flashed by, and his handsome face was full of excitement. He said to himself, "The 9th-level mystical fire doesn't seem to be that powerful. I feel that I should be safe and sound just by relying on my body." Chen Hao, who was surrounded by true vitality to protect himself, clearly felt the changes brought about by the complete recovery of his body. Although he had the true vitality to protect himself, he could still feel the terrifying heat around him. But now, he did not seem to feel uncomfortable at all. Thinking of this, Chen Hao withdrew his protective gang qi with true vitality. The 9th-level mystical fire immediately touched his body intimately, and then, just as I expected. Chen Hao looked at his sparkling, jade-like skin, which seemed to have merged with the 9th-level mystical fire. He could not help but laugh in surprise when they got along so well. There was no doubt that Chen Hao was very satisfied with the ability of his genes to self-evolve. It seemed that they were getting stronger as his cultivation level increased. Have you comprehended the 9th-level mystical fire? Suddenly, a voice that carried surprise and doubt suddenly resounded in Chen Hao's ears. Chen Hao was slightly stunned. Then, he thought of something and said, "Are you the Blazing Star's spiritual intelligence senior?" "I am, little guy. Answer my question. You can say that I have comprehended it, but you can also say that I have not. What I have comprehended is my body. As for the state of mind and the law of heaven, I have not comprehended it yet," Chen Hao said. When he was communicating with the phoenix, he already knew that the blazing star had spiritual intelligence. However, Chen Hao did not care much about this kind of spiritual intelligence life form. He was not worried that his secret would be revealed, because this kind of spiritual intelligence was forever confined to the blazing star and would be restricted by the law of heaven. It would not deliberately do anything that was disadvantageous to the practitioners. In fact, the reward for the person who opened the great opportunity and the mystical fire barrier that was condensed to block Chen Hao were all within its control. Comprehension of the body. Is there such a thing? This is because my body is special, Chen Hao said vaguely. That's true. Your physical body is indeed the most unique physical body I've ever seen. It's obviously not very strong, but its resilience and endurance are terrifyingly strong. All right, everyone has their own secrets, so I won't ask you anymore. You have 2 choices. One is to enter the star core space now with your Taoist companion. I think it should be your Taoist companion. Meet up with her. If you do this, you will only help her get the great opportunity that only appears once every 10,000 years on the blazing star. It will not do you any good. The other choice is to comprehend the ninefold mystical fire first, or get the approval of the mystical fire. As long as you do these two things, you will be able to get the great opportunity together with your Taoist companion when you enter. This is also the reason why I specially condensed the mystical fire barrier to block you. I did not expect you to break it by force. Think about it yourself. Do you want to enter or comprehend it first? I can help you guard the entrance of the blazing star for a month. Within this month, unless someone can withstand the test of the ninefold mystical fire, and of course, the attack of your phoenix and vermilion bird, no one will be able to come in and snatch the great opportunity from you. This is the limit of my power. Don't think that comprehending the ninefold mystical fire is of any use to you. Even if you don't need it, if you can comprehend it and merge your yin and yang with your Taoist companion so that she can achieve an absolute balance of yin and yang and get the great opportunity inheritance, it will be very beneficial to her. Your Taoist companion has the approval of the mystical fire and has the fire spirit body. I'm afraid this will be her future cultivation direction. Seeing Chen Hao's hesitation, the intelligence of the blazing star immediately explained. After it finished speaking, even it felt that it was a little too enthusiastic. However, when it thought of a certain possibility, it felt that it was right. I see. Thank you, Senior. Chen Hao thought for a while and said, originally, he thought that there was not much time left and that he had to help Tantai Lien get the great opportunity as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the ninefold mystical fire disappeared and the cultivators outside swarmed in, it would be troublesome. But now, after listening to the intelligence of the blazing star, especially when it said that comprehending the ninefold mystical fire would be of great help to Tantai Lien, he was moved. Very good. I hope that your comprehension ability is as strong as your physical body. I will condense 1 to 9 mystical fire barriers for you. Every time you comprehend a level, you can pass through a level. After completing all 9 levels, you can naturally enter the star core space. Of course, if you can get the approval of the mystical fire, you can also enter directly. You can start now. After the intelligence of the blazing star finished speaking, its mind moved, and the thicker mystical fire enveloped Chen Hao layer by layer. Phew! Chen Hao sat down cross-legged and slowly closed his eyes. Since he had decided, he had to give it his all. Therefore, in an instant, Chen Hao entered a state of emptiness, where he forgot about everything around him. His mind was completely immersed in the thick and pure aura of the mystical fire around him. The mystical fire was the strongest state of the fire property in the celestial prime stage. Those in the human celestial stage who could comprehend the threefold mystical fire were the top geniuses of the fire property. If one could comprehend the 5th mystical fire, basically, only the genius disciples in the human celestial stage who had obtained the powerful inheritance of the fire property could do it. Otherwise, it could only be possible when one reached the earth celestial stage. For someone like Tantai Lien, who had comprehended the 7th mystical fire at the human celestial stage, it was absolutely possible only if she had the fire spirit body. As for getting the approval of the mystical fire, it depended entirely on one's luck. It was an epiphany that could only be found by chance. Tantai Lien had only achieved it in an epiphany, and she had understood her own way, which was the way of fire. However, in such an excellent environment, and with his physical body having evolved to the point where it was not affected by the mystical fire, Chen Hao was still very confident that he could comprehend it quickly. Moreover, Chen Hao had also refined a lot of rotten stones in the source space. Although he did not specifically comprehend them, he had a unique advantage in any kind of source energy. In addition to his strong comprehension ability, there was a great chance that he could comprehend it. Chen Hao broke through the barrier of the mystical fire from the 1st level to the 4th level easily. In fact, his comprehension of the mystical fire was only up to the 4th level. The 5th level was the real beginning. Chapter 608. There's still no response. What's going on? It's been half a month. Long Ting muttered to herself in a concealed flying device thousands of miles away. There was a trace of anxiety on her face. Half a month. Chen Hao had been in the flaming eye for half a month. On the third day, Long Ting could not help but crush the communication talisman, wanting to ask about Chen Hao's situation. However, Chen Hao had not replied until now. This made her very depressed. However, she did not pay much attention to it at that time. After all, the situation inside the flaming eye protected by the ninefold mystic flame could be very bad. It was also possible that Chen Hao could not split his attention to reply. It was also possible that he had encountered some special situation. However, even after half a month, there was still no sign of recovery. This caused Long Ting to become impatient. Is there a problem? Long Ting frowned and said, "Little wisdom number 1, can't you sense Chen Hao's aura?" "I can't sense it. The detection system can't penetrate the ninefold mystic flame seal. I'm also very anxious. Please don't ask me over and over again. Thank you." Little wisdom number 1's mechanical voice was full of humanity. Obviously, Long Ting had asked this question more than once. On the first day, Long Yi went out to train alone. Since this great opportunity was triggered by Chen Hao's cultivation partner, Tan Tai Lian, even if he was interested, he could only give up. If it was someone else, with his strength, he would definitely give it a try. Since he did not want to waste time, he naturally would not wait in the flying device like Long Ting. It's really strange. It's normal for the ninefold mystic flame to last for 1 or 2 days. However, it's been going on for half a month and there's still no sign of it fading. Even if it's a reward for the person who activated the great opportunity, isn't it too long? I suspect that something might have happened that I don't understand. Should I go down and take a look? Maybe he's trapped. He hasn't moved for so long. When Long Ting crushed the communication talisman, she could clearly sense Chen Hao's position, which was 10 million miles away. Moreover, every time she sent out a message, Chen Hao had not moved at all. What was going on? Forget it, let's wait a little longer. Although Long Ting guessed that Chen Hao was trapped, the signal from the communication talisman was still there, proving that Chen Hao's life was not in danger. At this time, it would be bad if she went in and disturbed Chen Hao. Motherfucker, it's been so long, and the ninefold mysterious fire hasn't disappeared yet. It's fine if it doesn't disappear, but the 2 phoenixes are still eyeing it covetously. Could it be that this great opportunity is prepared for Guanu? Guanu hasn't come out for so long. Impossible. Now that the protection was still there, it meant that no one had obtained the great opportunity yet. Otherwise, everything should have returned to normal. Who cares who gets it? I'm not waiting anymore. There's no hope anyway. Although the crowd did not decrease and was still increasing, most of them were new faces. Some of the weaker cultivators, who were here with the intention of getting some leftovers, had waited for a few days without any results. Furthermore, the protection of the ninefold mystic fire showed no signs of weakening, so they all left one after another. And some cultivators who came from afar joined in the waiting. The experts who came later, such as Zhu Peifeng from the Black Sword sect, who were powerful, all tried to rush in, but they could not break through the Phoenix's terrifying defense line. It was a stalemate. No one knew that, except for the Phoenixes, the Vermilion Bird, with the help and awakening of the Blazing Star's spiritual wisdom, had already successfully reconstructed its golden body and joined the Phoenix's protection. However, under the cover of the ninefold mystic fire and the appearance of the Vermilion Bird and the Phoenixes, Zhu Peifeng and the others who tried to break through later did not realize that it was the Vermilion Bird that welcomed them, and not the Phoenixes that retreated to the second line to rest. The 6th layer, phew. There are still 15 days left. At this speed, I can't comprehend the ninefold mystic fire at all. I must speed up. I must speed up. In the fiery eye that was 10 million miles deep, Chen Hao's body was surrounded by 3 layers of mystic fire. To have broken through the first 6 layers in 15 days seemed to be very fast. But in fact, Chen Hao had only broken through 2 layers. From the 1st to the 4th layer, it did not take much time at all. It was the realm that he had comprehended in the first place. The 5th and 6th layers were the results of these 15 days. How could Chen Hao not be anxious? To, to, to. Chen Hao's mind was activated crazily again in an instant. It almost completely drifted out of his mind and integrated into the sevenfold mystic fire. But, in the blink of an eye, another 5 days passed. 5 days. In these 5 days, although Chen Hao tried his best to comprehend, there was no effect at all. The mystery of the sevenfold mystic fire seemed to have reached his limit, and he could no longer comprehend it. I don't believe that I can't comprehend you. For 20 consecutive days, even though Chen Hao urgently wanted to use the fastest speed to comprehend it, his mood did not affect his state of mind in the slightest. On the contrary, during the process of comprehension, even if he used all his strength to urge his mind, he still maintained a clear state of mind. He would not do something as stupid as wanting to be hasty and not being able to achieve it. But now, in the face of the sevenfold mysterious flame, there was no progress at all after 5 days. He didn't even grasp the slightest bit of its mysteries, let alone grasp the opportunity to comprehend it. Chen Hao was clear that if he continued to comprehend it like this, he could forget about comprehending the sevenfold mystic fire now, let alone the ninefold mystic fire. This made Chen Hao angry. Since he did not want to exchange feelings with me, then I will do the opposite and comprehend it by force. Anyway, this was not his Tao. In the future, it would be even more impossible for him to focus on the fire attribute. Boom! Powerful soul power suddenly bloomed from Chen Hao's mind and merged with his mind. Oppressing, deterring, suppressing, forcibly comprehending. Ah? This guy is trying to comprehend it by force? The spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was shocked when it sensed that Chen Hao had suddenly activated his powerful soul power and merged it with his perception. What's going on? This guy is only at the human celestial stage. He could comprehend the sixfold mystic fire because he had the inheritance of the phoenix and the inheritance of the rosefinch. Whether he could comprehend a higher stage depended on his comprehension ability and fate with the fire attribute. When it sensed that Chen Hao had not made any progress for several consecutive days, the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was sure that Chen Hao did not have the fate with the fire attribute like Tan Tai Lian did. Perhaps he would be confined to the sevenfold mystic fire after a month. Although the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was a little disappointed, it was still within its expectations. But it did not expect that Chen Hao, who was only at the human celestial stage, had to comprehend it by force with his soul power. This was simply a blatant challenge to the dignity of fire. Once the fire attribute, one of the most original 5 elements energy in the world, was irritated, what would the consequences be? Counterattack on the soul. Crazy. This guy is too arrogant. Does he think he is the supreme of Hongmeng? Too late. Boom, boom, boom. Seeing the mystic fire barrier that it had condensed suddenly spinning and burning crazily, the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was dumbfounded. It knew that at this moment even it could not stop Chen Hao. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, Chen Hao's soul power was burning crazily in the endless mystic fire. However, he, who had been mentally prepared, was not afraid at all. He also activated his soul power to suppress it crazily, leaving the pain of the burning soul behind him. Streaks of soul power were burned by the sevenfold mystic fire, and streaks of the sevenfold mystic fire were suppressed, destroyed, and dissipated by Chen Hao's soul power. On the other hand, Chen Hao's mind was completely immersed in the process of the sevenfold mystic flame's collapse and dissipation. What he needed to do was to comprehend the profoundness that emanated from it at the moment of its collapse and dissipation. Doing this was like studying a whole thing but could not find a breakthrough point. Then he used violence to disassemble it, and in the process of disassembling, he could find a breakthrough point. This was completely putting the cart before the horse. For a moment, Chen Hao's soul power and the sevenfold mystic fire were evenly matched, and they were not at a disadvantage. But as time went by, Chen Hao's soul power became weaker and weaker, and the sevenfold mystic fire, which was provoked and provoked, became stronger and stronger with the help of the endless mystic fire energy around it. It's over. Such a genius kid, and I still thought he could. If I had known this, I would have let him go in directly. I'm so nosy. He's finished. Wouldn't it be difficult for that little girl to get a great opportunity? How many years do I have to wait for another one? Sensing the scene in front of it, the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was depressed and regretted its greed. As the saying went, the higher the expectation, the greater the disappointment. This was the best description of its current mood. Because of its love for talents, it hoped that Chen Hao and his cultivation partner could get the greatest improvement in the fire property from this great opportunity. Then, in the future, the stronger Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian were, especially in the fire property, the more benefits the blazing star and its spiritual intelligence could get. This was no different from the luck of humans. Originally, it thought that Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian had hope, but now, it was ruined by Chen Hao's arrogance. Break for me. Boom. Rumble. Ah? Just as the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star was depressed and regretful, Chen Hao, whose soul power was getting weaker and weaker and was about to collapse, suddenly shouted loudly. Then, a scene that shocked the spiritual intelligence of the blazing star happened. The sevenfold mystical fire barrier suddenly exploded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The endless sevenfold mystical fire was actually grasped in Chen Hao's palm, and more of it gathered. Now you're obedient? Chen Hao's eyes shone with a soul-stirring light as he stared at the docile sevenfold mystical fire in his hand, which was like a sheep, and reprimanded it. Without a doubt, Chen Hao had forcefully comprehended the sevenfold mystical fire through his violent actions. Chapter 609. Ha! A brilliant smile appeared on Chen Hao's face as he comprehended the sevenfold mystic flame in his hand. 20 days of stifling depression had been swept away and was replaced by strong confidence. No wonder I couldn't find the right way to comprehend it. The sevenfold mystic fire has a qualitative change from the sixfold mystic fire, and I was influenced by the sixfold mystic fire. My direction was wrong from the beginning. If I follow that method, I'll be lucky if I can figure it out in a few months, let alone a month. I still need the vermilion bird to comprehend it with me, Chen Hao thought to himself. Ordinary top geniuses in the human celestial stage could only comprehend the threefold mystic fire. The limit of the earth celestial stage was the sixfold mystic fire. Only those in the heaven celestial stage could comprehend the sevenfold mystic fire and above. Only Daluo Jingxian could play with the ninefold heavenly fire. Those who had the inheritance of the ancient mythical beast of the fire attribute could surpass the limit of the realm itself. Those who had the fire spirit body would be stronger. Chen Hao only had the inheritance of the ancient mythical beast, but not the fire spirit body. Most importantly, he didn't comprehend it with the phoenix or the vermilion bird. This meant that he couldn't find the direction to comprehend it from the inheritance of the ancient mythical beast. There was a huge difference between the sevenfold mystic fire and the sixfold mystic fire. No matter how high Chen Hao's comprehension was, he couldn't find a breakthrough in a short time due to the influence of fixed thinking. It was just that Chen Hao didn't know before he comprehended the sevenfold heavenly fire. But now, Chen Hao succeeded in comprehending the subtle changes in the sevenfold mystic fire by using his powerful soul power to violently destroy the mysterious runes contained in the sevenfold mystic fire. It seemed thrilling, but in fact, for Chen Hao's powerful soul power, it was nothing. The final weakness was not what the blazing star thought. It was just that he didn't want to waste his soul power, so he deliberately weakened it. At that time, he had found the direction from the collapse and dissipation of the sevenfold mystic fire. In addition, although he didn't make any progress in the beginning, he had accumulated a lot of comprehension, so he easily broke through. The difference between the eightfold mystic fire and the sevenfold mystic fire is not big. Since I've found the direction, there's no need to waste my energy. Phew. Chen Hao released the sevenfold mystic fire with a wave of his hand, and his mind immediately merged into the eightfold mystic fire. 3 days later, he successfully comprehended the 8th level mystic flame. 7 days later, the ninefold mystical fire barrier was broken. At this moment, Chen Hao was directly enveloped by a 9th-level mysterious fire that contained a mysterious divine ability. In a flash, he disappeared on the spot. Who is this? Sure enough, the more daring a person is, the more bountiful the land is. Looks like my approach is correct. Haha. Seeing Chen Hao disappear into the star core space, the blazing star's spirit was in a good mood. It felt like it was a hero again. Gee, ha! Little bird, Master's aura has disappeared. Disappeared? You sparrow, who are you calling a little bird? Ha! I told you that Master would definitely be able to do it. Now that both Master and Mistress have obtained a fire attribute opportunity, our future prospects are even brighter. In the future, we will definitely be able to fully restore our ancient divine beast's might. Of course. When Chen Hao entered the star core space, the vermilion bird and Chen Hao instantly sensed something, and knew what had happened. And the phoenix, who had not followed Chen Hao for many years, sensed it carefully and also sensed it. The phoenix had actually been completely handed over to Tantai Lian by Chen Hao. However, because of the phoenix's uniqueness and the relationship between Chen Hao and Tantai Lian, it could not really erase all this. Because Tantai Lian was ultimately a woman with a pure yin body, an absolute balance between yin and yang could not be maintained. This kind of situation was nothing to ordinary cultivators. Some cultivators even had to completely balance their yin and yang and focus on strengthening one type to be more powerful. But with the phoenix's inheritance in one body, one had to maintain the balance between yin and yang. Star core space. The moment Chen Hao was brought here by the mysterious ability formed by the ninefold mystic flame, he was stunned by the aura and scene in this space. His eyes stared blankly at the core of the star core space, unable to move away. Endless mystic fire floated in the space, from the 1st level to the 9th level. But it was vastly different from the mystic fire of the outside world. It was not the nature of the fire, but the way the mystic fire was combined. Here, the aura of any mystic fire was completely different, because every single one of them contained a strand of profound divine ability laws, and they were like complicated talisman markings that floated silently in the air. They were of various shapes, and they emanated the unique dark blue glow of profound flames, causing it to be beautiful and illusory like an immortal paradise. Chen Hao instantly determined that this was definitely related to the application of the 1st level to the 9th level mystic fire, and it was an extremely powerful application. The door of profundity, all-encompassing. This is the great opportunity of the fire attribute star core space. Powerful. If I can completely comprehend the application of these different levels of mystic fire, how many times will my strength increase? Chen Hao sensed the mysteries contained in the mystic fire around him, and his mind could not help but waver. He even had a strong impulse to comprehend all the mysteries of the mystic fire here. But he knew that it was absolutely unrealistic. There were at least 10 billion mystic fire here. How could he possibly comprehend all of them? Without 10 million years, it would be unrealistic. Phew. This is not my Tao. Chen Hao heaved a sigh of relief. In less than 2 minutes, he jumped out of this endless temptation, and his mind became clear. It was also at this moment that the endless mysterious fire suddenly disappeared. But it was only for a moment, and Chen Hao opened his eyes and mouth wide again. He was even more excited and spirited than before. This? Xiaolian? Chen Hao simply couldn't believe his own eyes. Motherfucker, this really made him vomit blood. At the same time, it also made Chen Hao extremely clear-headed. It was him who came, and not others, at the core of the star core space. The boundless dark blue profound fire from the 1st layer to the 9th layer had condensed into a 9-leaf immortal lotus with a diameter of 3 kilometers. It emitted a misty dark blue radiance. This radiance was the boundless profundity that Chen Hao had sensed earlier. Without a doubt, if Chen Hao had been excitedly immersed in comprehending the laws of the divine ability that caused him to be excited, he definitely wouldn't have been able to see this enormous 9-leaf immortal lotus, nor would he have been able to see Tantai Lian, who sat cross-legged at the top of the immortal lotus. Beautiful. This was the only feeling Chen Hao had. This kind of beauty was not the kind of external beauty. Although her external appearance was really beautiful, it was not as if Chen Hao had never seen Tan Tai Lian before. Moreover, Tan Tai Lian was not the most beautiful among all the girls, but at this moment, the feeling that Tan Tai Lian gave Chen Hao was beyond any other moment of Tan Tai Lian's past. She was naked and sat cross-legged. Her entire body was as pink and translucent as a baby, and there was a faint smile on her beautiful face. On the 9-leaf celestial lotus formed by the mystic fire, there was a pure and holy aura. Just like her name, she was untainted by the mud, pure and clear but not demonic. The mystic fire celestial lotus was like a living thing, swaying gently under her body. The drifting blue light flickered sometimes, and sometimes it flowed slowly around her body like spring water. It made Chen Hao feel that Tan Tai Lian seemed to have merged with the mystic fire celestial lotus. The celestial lotus was her, and she was the celestial lotus. Phew, I understand. Xiaolian has already reached the last step of obtaining a great opportunity. She only needs to wait for the yin and yang in her body to reach an absolute balance before she obtains this mystic fire celestial lotus. In other words, she will obtain a great opportunity. Surprisingly, Chen Hao did not lose himself in such a moving scene, and he did not have an erection. This was very illogical. However, Chen Hao did not realize this at all. In fact, he was completely infected by the otherworldly aura on Tan Tai Lian's body, and he could not have any evil thoughts. However, this did not mean that he would forget what he wanted to do. Therefore, when he muttered the words yin and yang must reach an absolute balance, he took a step forward and silently started to walk towards Tan Tai Lian, who was immersed in comprehension. However, Chen Hao did not know that his initial worry that someone else would come in and see such a scene was completely unnecessary. In fact, if Chen Hao and Tan Tai Lian did not have the special and mysterious connection between Dao companions, he would not be able to see Tan Tai Lian at all. He would only see the 9-leaf mystic fire celestial lotus, and what he wanted to do was to sit on the 9-leaf mystic fire celestial lotus like Tan Tai Lian, comprehend it, and obtain it. Gently, I'm coming. Chen Hao slowly approached and stared, and such a sentence actually surged out from his heart. Will it startle her? She's obviously in a deep state of comprehension. Even if it's not sudden enlightenment, it's not far from it. If I'm able to silently fuse with her and not disturb her comprehension, then I'll surely be able to allow her to obtain a great fortuitous encounter very quickly. Chen Hao thought in his heart, but he shook his head right after that. Obviously, that was impossible. There was no problem with Tan Tai Lian's cross-legged posture, and there was no sign of her breasts. But if he wanted to fuse her spirit and body, then it was impossible to do it silently, and it was even more impossible for Tan Tai Lian to fuse her spirit and body without being aware of it. Little Lian, I'm coming. When he thought up to here, Chen Hao didn't hesitate any longer, and a strand of his mind instantly shot out and gently, extremely gently penetrated into Tan Tai Lian's mind. Chen Hao had fused the profundities of sound he'd comprehended from reciting the general outline of the Grand Tao into this voice. He believed that by doing this, not only would he be able to let Tan Tai Lian know of his arrival, he would also not interrupt Tan Tai Lian's state of comprehension. Is it an illusion? It won't affect me. What puzzled Chen Hao was that Tan Tai Lian actually didn't have any reaction at all. Little Lian, I'm coming. Chen Hao once again strengthened his mind slightly. Although this is what I'm thinking in my heart, it's too unreal. I've already completely comprehended it, and I'm about to obtain it. This kind of low-level illusion, break for me. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.